Merry Christmas, everybody. How are you guys doing? Uh, I'm doing good. I just felt like streaming. Trying to do it once a week, so it's about time. Uh, yeah. Had a I don't know. Hope you guys had a good one. Dealing with relatives can be a lot. I literally sat met my dad for just a few hours, and he was like counting off all the times, different ways he could be bigoted, practically with some of the shit he was saying. Generally speaking, I had a good time though. Yeah, hopefully everything, audios and everything's still good. Um, I don't know what video I want to watch yet, first yet. Let me pull up my list actually. Nope, that's the wrong list. No, maybe it isn't. Yeah, okay, I got the list up. No, I already watched the Zoro video. Because my list is just stuff that I haven't rewatched already. Hello, Maramo. And yeah, hello, Blue Princess and Christina Walker and Rider Nexus and Khalid Hicham. Don't wanna. I'll be. Yeah. Um. No. Mm, mm. Sorry, I just look at the videos. Could do. How about I'm just gonna list them off, and then one of y'all can suggest which one we watch first. Because I have the the Danganronpa Killer video, the Danganronpa Ultra Spiracles video, the Danganronpa V3 video, the plot device character video that I just realized also talks about Danganronpa a little bit, the My Hero Academia video, the anime pervert video, the Love Lab blackface video, and the Monster Hunter World gameplay video. I think that one's really long, so I definitely don't want to do that one. Or if we do that one, it'll be first. I don't know. Um, don't know. No, I never read the Hosoka one shot by Ishida, the Tokyo Ghoul author. No, I never did. I need to read that. I never did. Um, Kind of forget about it. Think where is the? Nope, that's not the one. Yeah, there's the video. So yeah, if nobody has any suggestions, I think I'll just pick myself. I'll give it another minute or so. Maybe let people come in uh, while I wait on. Yeah, Dot is here. Mid Hero Academia. All right, that is a video. There we go. It's been a long time since I thought about this one, so I hope it's holds up in some way. But well, I mean, it's probably I'll talk about it when we watch the video. All right.
Someone needed to say it. Unfortunately, had to be me. And to start off with, by mid, I do mean middling.
I think I had someone else edit this video.
6 out of 10. That's not a bad score. I'd say it's good, actually. It's worth a read, and there are good moments that stand out to me.
Oh yeah, that's another thing or no, that's right, because just one thing I've been trying to fix about my videos because like I think Shapes was talking about it in regards to on the AnyTube Digest about I think it was Mark totally not Mark. I almost said Markiplier and it's like wait no that's like a big streamer or something, isn't it? No, totally Mark. He did read Ippo. He started reading Ippo and his editors used anime footage, but like he's reading the manga and there's differences in because it's just in how they're presented, which just as an adaptation that's very normal for anime, just how you experience it, even if like the story is ultimately the same or the characters. So I only ever watched one season MHA. So but and my manga, my thing with MHA, I've said it before and I'll say it again, but I read it over a long period of time. I started reading it in like fucking 2016 or so. I was caught up for a little bit and then I put it down, and then I caught up again. Except I never went back and reread the old material, so I'm just very disconnected from it. So it's like it's so as far as my personal feelings, they'll probably date themselves the moment when I start reading it, because like I think I think aside from my emotional detachment, just like thinking about like what's going on a narrative level, I think it's pretty like apparently people aren't happy with the current arc. Even though I think it's like it's doing what it should be doing like narratively, like it's hitting all the beats. It's technically like the art's fucking crazy. It's good. I think it's good and interesting, and I'm curious about rereading it. But but yeah, just something I've been thinking about, and I'll try to fix. And like especially like I especially think about it with Bleach, because the Bleach anime makes some notable changes and adds plenty of anime original stuff, I'm sure. No, I know it does. So my videos will probably be manga only, which is gonna be fun to edit. Yay! Anyway,
This opinion, however, has been a gradually shifting one. On first reading, I was pretty enthralled with it. Then I put it down and came back to it and found myself enjoying it less. And finally catching up, I can say that's about where my feelings have leveled. Especially when I'm regularly called a decrepit, senile boomer and have to dig my heels
that's
in about my
right.
Yep, putting me on the defensive is sure going to change my mind and help me to enjoy a series I'm actively trying not to be completely apathetic towards. Mid,
Okay, boomer. Oh yeah,
mid,
Okay, boomer. Okay.
Yeah, I partly made this video because of the Weep Club. Video audio though. I will fix that. Oh wait, maybe the video's audio isn't. Hold on. Let me go back it up a little.
Boomer.
No,
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
it should be.
mid,
How's that?
Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer.
Let the bullet joke play out.
Boomer.
This show is full of fucking autists. It's amazing.
Yeah, so yeah, obvious plug there to a podcast that has changed its shape since I did that. And yeah, that was part of the reason I guess I was thinking about it, because like What and Bindi really liked MHA, and I was watching the anime just like for fucking 13, 26 episodes. I forget how long it was. I finished the season, but like I don't know. But yeah, let me know if the video audio. Oh yeah, that's another thing I guess audio related that I thought of is no, this video I don't think has music, but I did get my last stream hit with copyright because of music that played during Super Perpetual's videos that I used clips of, which is funny because my original Super Perpetual video isn't claimed, because I assume it's been on the platform long enough they haven't like rechecked it for copyright. But when the stream came out, they checked it for all the copyrights, so I don't know. But anyway,
I try to find
let me know if the
value
audio
in
needs
everything,
fixing.
but while My Hero Academia
Hopefully
is a
it's
series
better.
that does have value, noticing it doesn't particularly give me the deeper sense of appreciation or enjoyment.
Oh, I
that I'm hoping
remember
for.
this
And I
video
don't
now.
think it's a fault of the series that it mostly appeals to me on the most basic what happens next level that serves as an artifact of prior emotional investment. There's some characters I think are good, the art is strong, but the anime doesn't really live up to it. That's just how I feel, and I don't really expect anyone to agree with me. The kind of issue we see with MHA is that as a new and
Actually, I think people have turned on the MHA anime, because I remember when it started, people were really cool about the adaptation, but I know there's been some staff changes, and people are really, really mad about the sky in particular, and have been since the one season that I watched. I'm sure there's still some decent parts to it, and I don't know, maybe it's overall good, but it's like people are just really picky about anime adaptations nowadays, just because it's like we're so fucking spoiled when it comes to good anime adaptations. Like, what people expect, like the bar is so high now compared to like it's wild how things feel different from like 10, 20 years ago.
popular thing, it has people liking it. Then, people who don't care as much for thing engage with it and have less than positive things to
Media
say.
poisoning.
Some of which is
Yeah.
legitimate, with the bad amount being couched in misunderstandings of the narrative or just all narratives and storytelling in general. I may not be invested in MHA, but it's at no fault of the series. It's solid and has made no real missteps. The aspects I find not to my notable enjoyment being just that, not to my particular enjoyment, rather than being something bad or faulty, or even making me feel negative. It's stuff that's just there. But the negative criticisms force those who do like it into a defensive position, but one they're not always particularly capable of representing, leading to defenses that are just as wrong-minded as the criticisms they are opposed to. As a result, a lot of the discourse about the series can be divided into overpraise and overhate. People seeing
Oh god, I told the fucking editor to use less critical, and he didn't. He was like, but he does it a lot, and I was like, I don't know. At a certain point, it's just annoying to argue with the editor. I don't know, just because it's like, how many times can you say the same thing? But yeah, I guess I just kind of, in general, I want to edit my own videos going forward, just because, like, and generally, not always, like, or at least use, you know, I have editors I know who do a good job. And not that this person did a bad job, it's just like, you know, this was the only video they edited of mine. Oh, sorry, SG, just looking for a character development video. And yeah, I did have that one, which I already rewatched, so I don't think I'll need to rewatch it on stream. But yeah, I think I was mostly okay with that video still. I didn't see if, I don't remember if I left a comment or not. But anyway.
Accomplish basic things and overhyping it, throwing other
Okay, there was literally one not critical tweet there. Good motherfucker. God damn it. God damn it. I don't remember it being that bad. Because I know he's a little, or I don't, he might still be cringe. I don't know. He's just one of those, like, people who my former Discord server just, like, hyperfixated on making fun of, and then they moved on to a different guy, and moved on to a different guy, and it's like, I'm just so, done. I don't know. I don't care. If I see a fucking cringe take on Twitter, I just fucking move on.
Twitter and Reddit, but I'm not going to subject myself to the horrors of trying to pick out fringe opinions, or trying to boil dozens of thoughts down into one point I see being made. I'm going to focus on a few moderate ones made by higher profile critics, starting with Giguk's claim that the fights in My Hero Academia are pretty dull. Though the video is titled as negative, it's actually positive and pretty stupid. The ultimate aim of the video is to try and discover what distinguishes MHA from other things in the same genre, going on to state that no, MHA isn't a battle shonen, it's a
well-written superhero character drama, one with an established world and society.
because the fights aren't actually fights, they're the story.
MHA isn't about the superheroes. It's about the characters. God. God. Why are people like this?
Not that the fights tell a story, but that the main beats of the story is told through the fights.
Like-
Baffling is a fitting word to describe the video. It very much bends over backwards, trying to insist that MHA is doing something different by using its fights to characterize, world build, and deliver ideological conflicts. That's exactly why it's defined as a battle shonen, not a character drama. A fight for the sake of a fight just shouldn't be in the manga. Conflict is inherently going to offer something, be it for any of those purposes. It's even admitted that the fighting doesn't make them good. It's the context around the fight, which kind of ends up dodging around his own forced complaint. To someone unengaged, the fights having context and meaning to them isn't magically going to make them begin to care. Even if they see the value in what it accomplishes, investment is still very much subjective. Case in point being myself with the Sun Eater. Too weighed down by his need to be perfect, he hesitated to move, but Mirio's brightness pushed him further, pushed him to do better. This is contrasted.
Yeah, I want to say, because, like, I just seen generally people, like, and I even saw someone responding about it too, because it's like, how you feel about a thing isn't going to be, it's gonna, like, yeah, you can explain the point of it, the narrative of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean someone's gonna be more emotionally invested all of a sudden, right? Like, it might. Sometimes I remember when I talked to Super Fetch Wolf at Anime Expo, I think he said something about, like, Luffy versus Katakuri, just, it devolves into a slugfest, like, they're just hitting each other. And I don't think that's incorrect, but I literally just said, like, I just pointed out some of the basic family stuff with, like, you know, Katakuri is burdened by his family and Luffy is free because of who his family is and how they relate to him, and, you know, and just like, and he was just from that, he was like, oh, okay, right? So sometimes it can work. But here's an example where it's like, I was bored by this fight. I get the point of it. I know what it's accomplishing. I just like, again, I don't have that emotional investment in the series, right? Like, I like to think that you can do that analysis, um, and understand the story and stuff, regardless of your emotional investment. What often ends up being the case for me is because I don't care, I'm kind of disassociating from the thing and not paying as much attention to the details I would pick up on. Um, right? So at the end, so really, it's like, in order to give a shit about the analysis part, you kind of have to have some level of emotional investment already. So now it can be useful if they're like, say they're doing a very specific thing about the writing, right? Like a response, and you respond to, well, actually, it's in service to this or it does that. Like that's different. But just like if someone says they don't like something and you respond with analysis, like that's, or like there's just ways that it's not the answer, really the answer to the question. No, Chris, I have not really watched a Trash Taste podcast. I just never heard anything really interesting about it. I was never really invested in any of the people who did it as creators. Like I've watched some Gigguk videos, but it's just not, personally, I'm just not interested. So yeah.
Comrades who were taken in by overhaul because useful trash is being better than disposed of as trash. And in their circumstances, they were able to find camaraderie. But as Tamaki said, they could not eat their friends. Unified as trash, they could not rise above one another, or push each other down by harming them. But Tamaki wasn't so beholden to his comrade, one trying to make up for past failures and charging into unknown danger. By aiming to surpass Mirio, he was able to surpass his enemies that gladly accepted their circumstances and remained in that low place with each other. I get the context, there were smarty boy strategy things, and the fight looked pretty good too. And none of this was anything
I don't know, the way I said smarty boy strategy things
There's a couple points to the fight
made me laugh.
into something unfairly dismissed in Gigguk's video. The driving conflict of the fight, Tamaki's hero name, and his quirk all focus around eating. These individual elements are part of what makes the fighting worthwhile and not dull by Gigguk's standard. Yet in his video, he argues that the fights could just be replaced with thumb wrestling, which is so completely off base and laughably dismissive that it makes my head spin. There is so much important context being displaced. What, is Tamaki just gonna eat his opponent's thumb? And yeah, it's a joke.
That's pretty funny. Though I was gonna say there is actually an interesting short manga, that's basically it's a rock paper scissors tournament, but it's done in like a very battle shonen way where it's sort of like every fight becomes about everything about like rock paper scissors possible, like everything outside the fight. Like I don't know, I remember it being pretty interesting. It's been a long time since I read it. So but anyway.
But nothing in the video is funny in the first place, and a point is still ultimately trying to be made here. What's not a joke is the claim that the fights don't matter except how they work in the grand scheme of things, which is why fights always mattered. He's trying to make this broad aspect of MHA something it's not. Unique. Bleach is packed with fighting. Everyone
Yep. So one is I think I'm just responding to the stuff I discussed in the Super Hypertroph video here because I'm like, because I happened, last time he was taking this very basic common thing and acting like it was more than it was, like Gigguk's doing. So now I'm responding with Bleach, which is a series that people don't like the writing of, even though it's phenomenal. So, and like, here's the narrative context stuff.
Continually building on its thematic ideas and arcs. Vista of the North
Oh,
Star,
no, never mind. I didn't go super into it.
The rest of the big three, literally anything. You can read things out of any conflict. In a similar sort of overpraised vein, I'm going to talk about a much less egregious example in the form of Maname Matt's video on Shigaraki. Now, the core of it that sticks to MHA is more or less fine. Shigaraki grows as the story goes on. Neat. But what bothers me here is the framing. The title claims that Shigaraki is revolutionary, even though the video admits that he only might be as the series continues. It should be obviously wrong, as stating that Shigaraki has somehow revolutionized the way that series writes their villains, even though the story is so far from being completed, is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah,
but hey,
revolutionary kind of implies like a big change. So even if he's correct, then it's like, well, we can't observe the big change until after the fact. So, yeah. And also, yeah, no, I'm probably going examples. Never mind.
But if we're we're talking about antagonistic characters who grow, you have Sasuke, who spends much of the series walking forward on his own path. Much like
Fucking
Naruto.
yeah.
If you want to talk about pure villains making changes, then one with a marked change after his failure is Dio Brando. Starting with Phantom Blood, Dio's view of power is rather straightforward. His most notable minions are Jack the Ripper, Killer of Dozens, or Tarkus and Bruford, knights who succeeded in the challenge of 77 rings. Dio
I'm rewatching
himself
JoJo
surrendered
next
his
year.
humanity,
Should be
becoming a
fun.
vampire,
Might
the
do
strongest
content
indeed,
out of it.
And yet all of that was fruitless in response to Jonathan and his indomitable spirit. His will literalized through Haman. After his defeat, we skip chronologically to flashbacks given during Stone Ocean, where he gives an alternative view of strength, where he notes that everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Even if it is retroactive, this can be seen in the types of minions he utilized throughout Stardust Crusaders. While he used one with capable amounts of brute force like Pet Shop or Anubis, he was also guarded by the likes of the Darby brothers, whose strength was far outside the physical like he relied on in Phantom Blood, Dio's failures having led to introspection and growth. That's not to take away from Shigaraki, as at least among series I've read he's handled uniquely, being the final antagonist where Dio is only antagonist through part of his series, and starting out as
I mean, that's true for Dio. Well, actually, you know what? I don't think I agree with that anymore because, like, see, the thing with Dio is because he's the main antagonist of part 1 and 4, but he's still highly, highly relevant in part 6, which is basically like for that stretch of the story, like, you know, like yeah, and even in the parts that he's not there, I noticed that there's actually notable contrasts between them, like Cars and Dio both see themselves as above humanity. Diavolo and Dio both are trapped by fate and very obsessed with fate. I feel like I had a contrast with Kira too, but it doesn't come to mind. But like in a way, like even though and then you could also argue is that like yeah, all three of those characters are also direct like you know, the stand arrow is you know, Dio was connected to that, the stone masks obviously, so it's like in parts 1 through 6 you kind of can't escape Dio no matter what part you're on. Where by comparison, MHA, yeah, Shigaraki is a main antagonist and he's throughout the series, but there's also part of the stories where he's not the main antagonist. So I don't know, I just like they're kind of, I don't know, I'm just not sure if my point really stands up. Slightly louder audio. So yeah, Marimo, I don't know if you mean slightly louder for the video or the me, but anyway, but yeah, I'll keep an eye out. I'm just gonna play more of the video. So
antagonist where Sasuke made the switch partway through. I just feel as though the statement of revolutionary is vastly overselling it, especially when again, the actual video isn't able to make the claim without hedging it. Even though they aren't actively aiming to throw other series under the bus, something worth a whole discussion of in itself,
but I kind of already did in the Super Perpetual video, I guess. So because I am glad at least like even if their praises aren't really on the mark, like at least they're not shitting. I don't remember them shitting on other series in those videos, so it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
Matt still ultimately eclipsed other works in the genre through not acknowledging what they do not know. Matt's video in particular could have stood to be reframed to hold back on that, his overall video being a positive step in that it at least never makes claims beyond the context of the show, even though the title is still framed that way. Giggix I have no idea how to fix because I'm still not sure what it was trying to accomplish, but at the end of the day I will say that despite lacking the proper framework and
I don't know what the fuck you're doing, bro. I don't know how to fix it. Like what? That's pretty funny. Because it's like, yeah, I mean, the thing about especially both of those YouTubers is that they're very productive, or at least that, you know, especially like Man and Matt put out a video a week, right? So it's like when you put quantity above quality, like you're always just gonna start shoving shit out, right? Like, and as far as stuff, like they could be plagiarizing, like it could be worse, and which I don't think they were. Like, you know, like from what the Man and Matt videos that I remember is like his flaws were so like common that like no, he was making it would be weirder if there was a video that didn't have those flaws, because it's like, okay, this is either something you do really understand or you suddenly are but because like if it's suddenly changing like how he frames his stuff, because I felt like all of his videos had some that I saw had some major like misstep in like not thinking of a certain thing a certain way, or making broad claims and being like, oh, nothing would do something like this, even without like stepping back and wondering why it's like that in the first place. Just and yeah, so Giga, I think he does he have other people write his stuff sometimes? I feel like he might, but I don't remember because I never seriously watched either of them Like I have seen several of their videos in both cases, but I was never really big into them. I like compared to like, Trixie, Digibro. I watched shitload of that Digi videos at the time. PCP in general, Pawn Select I've watched a bunch of, right? So yeah. But those two are I've at least seen more than one. I'll say that. So
framing, they are coming from a positive place. For my last example, I want to talk about a take that I found less than positive. That being IGN's review of Season 4, Episode 9. Adapting Kirishima and
Gotta
Falcon's
love
fight against Dwarf,
IGN.
in which he claims that it borders on filler. Now, to start with being pedantic, filler is a word that generally refers to anime original content, meaning that this material is objectively not filler. Padding might have been a more accurate term, but claiming that the fight does what it sets out to do well enough, while also saying it does nothing to advance the plot we are so desperate to see move forward, leads to a complaint that I feel is misplaced. Not in that it's a wrong thing to feel, but in that it's one that I feel is utterly inadequate in regards to discussing the genre as a whole, not even just MHA, and as a result, creating something of an impossible problem. What this fight is accomplishing is giving much needed context into Kirishima, one of the characters who's been more or less in the background for over 100 chapters and 50 episodes.
Yeah, I think I like how Vindy framed it, where it's like, this is the part where we're supposed to learn to become to care about this character, because he's kind of just been in the background for so long, and this is when we're getting his character, and they follow up on this moment in some neat ways. And even just in here, I think there was some interesting stuff, like, and that made, just made me realize some neat things about MHA. So yeah.
It's large, and while some characters have gotten moments here or there, we're still waiting on many of them. And this episode is exactly how the audience is meant to come to care for them. We get context into Kirishima's struggles and hang-ups about being a hero, tying him to another Class A hero, and ultimately the thematic thrust of both the arc and the series as a whole. Structurally, this is no different than how any shonen series handles its battles, which is why I feel it's unfair as to only focus on the main plot of this single arc, when this fight is one that's considering the role of the character in the story as a whole. To not give him any focus is to beg the question of why he's in the story at all, and to give him focus in an action scene, which is to be expected of an action series, is just the norm. Even if the fight is doing what it aims to accomplish, that's still being ignored in favor of what the article's author wants to see from the series. I think the point being missed here is one that echoes back to the appeal of the genre itself. If you want a tightly focused story on only a small number of key characters, then try something else, like a film or a 12-episode anime, because stories like this are big in cast, big in scale, and big in length.
What was that series? Chivalry of Failed Knight, maybe? Because again, I didn't edit this video. Like, obviously Lupin the Third, which is like, yeah, it's just about this small group of characters and doing a bunch of things with maybe some movie original characters or show original characters or whatever, episode original characters or whatever, right? But it's mostly about the four thieves and I think my math is correct, and then like the Zenigata, and just like, yeah. But I was just like, what? Yeah, but in general, it's like, I guess what I'm arguing there is just I like long form stories that do a bunch of things, that have a bunch of characters, that where you can get little moments like this where it's like, here's this one character that, and we're going to give him a big moment, right? Like in a movie, everything is meant to be a very tightly constructed and paced to fit, the hour and a half to 3 hour runtime or longer. Some movies are longer, so there's that kill your darlings, trim the fat, right? So because sometimes you get authors like Kishimoto's one of his favorite characters in Naruto is Choji, right? Who is that kind of Kirishima small character, but Kishimoto fucking loves him, right? Like he's mentioned how he's like his secret favorite character of Naruto because he really likes those moments that he gets Choji and stuff, right? So, and lots of people connect to these smaller, like fucking Rock Lee is one of the most popular characters in Naruto in English speaking countries because of, he's got some really fucking cool moments, right? But yeah. Okay, and apparently, ZG says Giguk did write his own videos, but maybe it's changed since he's doing Trash Taste. But again, that's neither of us know. So
long haul. Part of the appeal is perhaps best stated in Hunter x Hunter, where Jing states that the side trips off of the main road to what you're looking for should be enjoyed. Hunter x Hunter itself is a series that runs with these side detours, away from the main goals of its characters, ending major arcs with some form of
Hunter x Hunter good, gasp.
Yet it is one of the most well-regarded and beloved in the genre. Like Kirishima took Rappa head-on, I don't think the small things that the author felt were important enough to show should be skipped over or ignored if you enjoy the genre, especially when they aim to contribute to the whole beyond the short-sighted one-sided view of the plot. Like or dislike them at their own merits and what they offer, just don't dismiss them because they don't seem to matter when you could aim to find out why they do. Now, talking only about the clumsy takes would be incredibly unfair. With so much discussion, there's no way it could all be poorly handled. And there are definitely videos worth watching that manage to explain and explore the series on its own merits. So I've linked a few in the description. To finally go
Yeah, I
back to
don't
the
know how those. Wait, okay, they're linked in the description. I was about to say, like, wait, I don't know what those videos are, and I didn't even pause fast enough. But I'm pretty sure I know. I saw the pause and select video. I imagine the rest were by MathWiz and What the What, because if they were maybe because those would have been like the only anti-tubers I was watching at the time, who would have done MHA videos. So yeah, but I don't know.
series itself, what helped me to best understand the state of discourse and why it's like this was actually watching the anime. I skipped straight to season 4, which is actually the lowest rated one at the moment. I myself have been less than engaged overall in spite of a few good episodes here or there. Only really watching it for a podcast where I get to say my dumb things here or there and my friends get to gush about how much they enjoy it. But after more or less having to push my way through something I'm largely disengaged with and have little to nothing to
I remember
say,
my last
I can
point.
better understand why someone who is saying things as a job will at least try to say something that sounds meaningful. Getting paid to say what happens to be dumb shit is understandably more appealing.
Because I mentioned it earlier because I mentioned Man Matt Guguk and the IGN, like we're talking about, like IGN's a professional outlet, like they need someone talking about it. So there's the guy, he forced it what he wanted to say, and then Guguk and Man Matt, like yep, I remember that's I forgot that I just say it later in the video.
And not getting paid. YouTube incentivizes mainstream and controversial opinions by rewarding all engagement.
Sorry, I remembered the joke that I say.
Through their algorithm. And of course, popular outlets need to cover popular things. Dumb things said are still dumb, and I'm lucky enough not to have to force myself too much. But YouTube commenters, Twitter, and Reddit say stupid shit for free. Well, insinuating that I have absolutely nothing to say is a bit disingenuous. I do contribute to the podcast, and those discussions in turn lead to further thoughts of my own.
Sorry, like obviously people say good or interesting things for free too, but just like the way that I'm framing it, just like I don't know. I laughed earlier because I remembered that joke, and it's like well, Man and Matt and Gigak are getting paid to say silly things, but some people do it for just go out there and do it for free. I don't know, something about this just funny to me.
Something Vindy said about Kirishima and his quirk made me begin to consider them as a systemic trait. Quirks will act and react in certain ways, which in turn incentivizes how the people with them must act and react. As a boy who wants to become a hero, Kirishima is kind of a coward, but his powers force him to take things head on, or else he won't be able to protect anything. What seems much more common in stories with powers is characters who already fit them perfectly. Even in MHA, you have Deku the Everyman with his Everyman brick powerhouse abilities. And, well, Bakugo's explosive. Enough said. But Kirishima's personality doesn't fit his powers, and in order to grow into them as a better hero, he needs to change into one as a person, not just for thematic ones, but also basic textual ones thanks to his quirk. The same concept is also touched upon with characters like Shinzo, who wants to be a hero but has a villain power, meaning he would have to distinguish himself as a hero in a different way than Todoroki or Deku, who are standing under the shadows of heroes with similar powers who they need to surpass. The organic qualities of quirks incentivize certain paths, and the series may continue to explore this idea as it goes forward, never minding what it's already doing that I haven't touched upon here. Even if there may be more to say, and it isn't impossible that my spark for the series might reignite in the future, and I can see potential events in the future that might pique my interest, but that's only a passing likelihood. And while I like to be surprised, one area that the series has consistently failed to surprise me on is the humor. I honestly had to look up any instances that were trying to be funny because none stood out to me. It's just kind of there.
There was, I think, one moment involving Gentle during season 4 that made me laugh, but again, if I'm not engaged with the characters, like I'm not gonna laugh. So generally unfortunate. Oh yeah, no, TY, because Deku's initial power being suited for him. That's actually kind of a regular thing, especially with like the mechanics of passing powers around. Like I won't spoil the I don't know how far the anime is, so I'm just gonna pretend that it's not much farther than season 4. But like the way the traitor, that character's arc involves powers and whether they fit the body or not was pretty interesting, and that was a note on just like I thought that was I actually just stopped and listened because it's like that's one of the things I find interesting about MHA, where it does go into how like having the powers and whether good powers, like how people see the powers, like psychologically affects the characters, which is it's pretty neat. And I thought that was interesting enough to say it back then, and I'm still interested in it now, even though I haven't thought too much about it in a long time. So yeah.
Like, I have to be wrong, but it just feels like every instance is just a goofy thing being done. Or, haha, Mineta is a pervert, isn't that so funny? But even now, as I express something I particularly don't care for in the series, it's just the humor. Something already incredibly subjective in regards to enjoyment. Because I have no real objective faults to point out. Stain's a plot device, but I'd argue he's a perfectly serviceable one. Classic is really big, and if you can say all their names out the top of your
Plugging my
head,
other
you're
videos.
a liar. But they might get their time in the limelight. Eventually. Maybe. Probably. Perhaps. It's a serviceable show with better source material. I guess I'm just the kind of guy who will prefer something with lower lows and higher highs than something that's just all around mid. I can't really resent.
I don't know. Okay, because it's yeah. It's see again. I just don't have the like. Because yeah, I guess Danganronpa and Naruto have lower lows than MHA, but higher highs. Like now, I'm like, I don't know if I think that. I don't know, because it's like now you're talking about like one of my favorite game franchises and fucking Naruto, which I don't know if this was this. I don't know if this was. This might have been before I reread it, because on the Nen show we read it and we were like, wow, we had some issues with it, but it was really good. And then I reread it after, and like a lot of those issues kind of went away. And if I reread it again, like yeah. But it's been a long. I don't know. When I do little stuff like that, it's so relevant to my specific headspace at the time I make the video. So now when I rewatch it, I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? So yeah.
MHA, even if the fan base ticks me off sometimes, since so many are adamant about saying anything, whether they know what they're talking about or not. But I was there when the big three were going, and while I like them all a lot, they needed to be defended way back then, so I feel the need to do that now.
Yeah,
Each
they
video
still need to be
this
defended
year,
in
I
some
promise.
ways.
But MHA is the new thing, and given that new things need to be defended, then it's a good thing that it has people defending it now. Even if maybe it's just that sometimes the discussion is a little tiring. Oh shit, I died. Anyway, I'd like to thank my
What?
patrons for this.
I died. I guess that was the last joke in the video. Okay. All right. So yeah, overall, it's okay. You know, there's some decent. I guess like the main points are fine, and there's some. They're pretty fair overall. The opinion's probably gonna be dated when I go through the series again. And then what else? Wow, my brain just went completely fucking blank. Yeah, I think I had a couple of gripes in there, but they weren't too major. All right. What? You know what? I know what I'm gonna do. What we're gonna do next, because it was referenced in that video. So let's watch this video. I know has some problems. So we're gonna watch my plot device character video. The only thing I remember vaguely some of the things I talk about. One thing I remember is there was a comment on this video because someone just heard my opening rant and like they were like, yeah, we get it, you don't like Smaug or whatever. And it's like, well, the point was that I'm quoting another person talking about Smaug as though it's my own, and then being like, no, that guy's dumb, and that's a dumb point. Another fun fact about this video is this is the third version of the video, because like once I uploaded it, it got copyright struck, and then I re-uploaded it and it got copyright struck again. So like I technically had 3 uploads on this day, and it was rough. It was rough. All right. Anyway,
Smaug is a glorified obstacle for the heroes to overcome. His ominous threats and fiery breath, all tropes from heroic legends. Brought together, it creates a giant cliché whose only purpose is to make the First Fellowship's task that much more difficult. He's even ancillary to the main goal in retrieving the Arkenstone. They don't go there planning to slay him. If Bilbo had actually managed to do his one job properly, then he wouldn't have even been an issue. While it's true he seems set on destructive revenge of Lake Town, the only
yeah, I'm already
purpose
getting like
serves is to fulfill
what
the destiny barred the
bad
bowman.
takes that I
When it comes
respond
down
to
it,
in the video.
Smaug is merely a plot device within the stories of others. A problem to be solved. Yeah, I didn't write that. It's an article from What Culture published around 4 years ago now, and it represents a mindset that I've seen all too often in the casual side of critical discourse you get in media discussion. The recognition of the plot device is often used as a weapon of criticism against the character filling that role. And that's not to say that plot devices don't exist. They absolutely do. And to say
Oh,
Smaug
the editing
one
is
isn't even
there's
wrong.
just sort of I hit the
He's
little frame
proud and
skips where it
brags
shows a
about his
frame
greatness
that
despite
shouldn't
being
for a
unable to
second,
kill
and
even a tiny
it's
hobbit.
yeah.
And within moments after stepping out of his door,
Try to
he's
avoid
killed
those,
by a
but
character first introduced in the scene he slew the dragon. On Smaug's characterization alone, there's little more to say, and with such a short screen presence, there is no hint of character development to be found. With so little to say, then the argument should rest that he's not a good character, and thus, only a plot device. But instead of leaving it there, let's dig a little deeper, and instead discuss him relative to the only character he interacts with, the Hobbit Bilbo, who does two very important things in this scene. One is that he notes the chink in Smaug's armor, the missing scale in the coat he is so proud of. And secondly is
oh yeah, I
his
appreciate that.
powerful
Oh, so Traverser, this is hold on, what is the title of the video? Dissecting the plot device character. It doesn't have Danganronpa spoilers, and yeah, viewer says this and the character development video were probably were influential to how I view stories, which I think is great because like I definitely like. Because again, I think I was talking about last time, but the way people try to view stories as like a real world under real world logic, where character like in a horror movie, it's like that character didn't do the logically optimal step thing at the time, where it's like, have you ever panicked? Have you not been in a stressful situation? Like no, or just like even fictional worlds having their own rules. Like I just watched a Thanksgiving, like a slasher movie. I haven't seen one of those. It's just like it was kind of funny watching the way people were kind of like made out of paper mache, where they just like a lady got cut in half by a dumpster, which is like dumpsters don't work that way, but there's a humor slash gore element there to the film, like it's part of the world, right? And just viewing characters not as like real people, but just like they're literary objects. They're there to accomplish a purpose in the narrative. So that the character development video is like, here's the different ways a character can do that through their character arc, whether they change or don't. And then this one was like, minor characters are in service to larger characters. So yeah. Oh yeah, the fiction video was also, or anime as unrealistic. Yeah, that was also. I guess that's a recurring theme of my work, I suppose. Is like it's art, it's not real. Stop pretending that it's real. It feels real.
counts the deeds he's accomplished from his great adventure. By condensing his deeds from
That's like my favorite moment of the book. Is when he accepts his adventure and just I'm a barrel rider, and it's like, yeah, let's go.
Contextualizes the very meaning of his adventure. This speech is The Hobbit.
Yes,
Bilbo
that's why.
is
Yep.
Smaug's exact opposite. A humble, tiny man who, when challenged by the trials before him, prevailed on his bravery and wit to face down the mightiest beast in the land, a lazy lizard who hasn't been pushed to do anything in years. His deeds from eras long past, his modern accomplishments limited to eating ponies. Yet he's so much more prideful and certain of himself than the tiny Bilbo, and this foolishness brings him ruin as he leaves his home without Bilbo's humble caution. It is in this contrast between the two where Smaug's thematic significance and narrative weight become realized. Those savvy in literature might have caught that Smaug also serves the purpose of a foil, a lens with which to view other characters. But
I think I said it that way, like savvy in literature. Like at the end of the day, it's a pretty basic term, but like I also generally don't like. I don't know. People tend to talk about things in a hobbyist amateur way differently. Because I remember I learned that term in school, so that was probably my like why I came at it from that. I word things weird sometimes. Yeah.
that Smaug is a foil and not a plot device, because I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. If a character is there to move the story, and they happen to reflect the main character in the process, then their role in the story hasn't changed because they fulfill another purpose. Instead, I want to ask, what's wrong with a character being a plot device? In fact, the definition of plot device is a neutral one, specifying that contrived or
that was an
plot
edit
devices
there.
are liable to annoy or confuse the audience. And there's nothing arbitrary or contrived about Smaug. As the long-standing catalyst for the adventure, he's a known danger from the beginning, and the traits of his character as a foil to Bilbo hold a meaning to it that excludes them from being meaningless or arbitrary. But while he's not a bad plot device, he also doesn't meet the standards of what supposedly makes a good character. Smaug being Bilbo's foil doesn't alter.
Another thing I just remembered, because I remembered like I think I talked about world building in one of my videos, because world building because like don't get me like obviously I like stories like One Piece or Beastars that have these really interesting worlds and settings. Um, but you know, people like it's there like I've seen people joke about how it's like a cliche when talking about One Piece because one of the first praises anyone gives it is the world building, and it's just like there's so many other things that are interesting about One Piece, but also just like I just remember one of the articles I listed about they were just dissecting why they don't think world building is necessarily like it's because it's the same thing. It comes from the same place of right. Like we want to see these worlds as real, so therefore world building becomes a standard we need to hold to anything, even if like there's parts of it that don't make logical sense. Um, like again, last time I was talking about like Pretty Cure and Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, where it's like they have loose continuity. But I don't know who Logos is. Yeah, and what was I saying? Like right, yes, and I remember they even made a point where it's like because people generally point to Tolkien as like because as far as world building goes, like he had languages, he had this world, all these details in this world, but I think they point out by his like certain standards that they were responding to, like Tolkien doesn't like actually fit what good world building is by the standards they were responding. I think where did I link those? Was it in one of it might have been my fairy tale tirade on the tirade because I was responding to world building because my issue I had issues with fairy tales world building, and I think I remember finding those articles and they kind of did what you guys said with this video and just making you think about stories, and it's like, oh yeah, world building doesn't need to be a universal thing that everyone cares about or every story should care about. um, yeah, no, Silmarillion's hard to read. I tried. Don't think I got a chapter into it, just because of the way it's written. It's just like, whew, like you gotta be taking notes, and that's not really that fun. So I haven't tried to read it in a long time though. But yeah. Even though yeah, it does add a lot of world and setting to the Lord of the Rings. But anyway,
His characterization any. He's very much still the prideful lizard he was built up to be. Nor does he get character development. If strong characterization and development are what makes the standard for a good character, and Smaug doesn't fill that requirement, then Smaug gets into good character. But can we do better? How do we fix Smaug? If he were to be given other character traits, unless they could be used to meaningfully foil Bilbo, then they would be superfluous, unnecessary, or otherwise muddle the idea his character is meant to evoke. And to give him traits to foil other characters, or give him more of a character arc, would both involve
well,
giving him more screen time and focus.
it's so funny. I guess they actually do, or it's like not through the. No, actually, yeah. I think I mostly talk about Bilbo here, but no, I because I only saw the first two Hobbit movies and I didn't really like them. So I kind of hit a sticking point with my brother who he I think he'd read the book, or no, he had the book read to my dad read The Hobbit to me and my brother when we were kids. Um, but he liked the movie trilogy. He's fairly normal, and I'm not gonna hold it against him because he also really likes the Lord of the Rings movies too. Um, but one of the things he likes about the movies is like Thorin being consumed by the greed, and some of the ways the third movie shows that. And I was like, oh, okay, that just trying to make me be more like accepting because I think I'd been kind of too closely in that mindset of just like because I don't want to devalue anyone's experience with the thing even if I don't like the thing, right? Because that's their experience and they have every right to have that. Because I remember with Super Bad Wolf, I was bothered with some of the ways he talked about like the Berserk, the 2016 and 2017 anime, because it doesn't look good. And it's like, well, if someone has their own experience with that, like that's that's still valuable to them, even if like yeah, there's a better version of the work. I don't know. But could use quotation marks because yeah, obviously the manga is phenomenal, right? So is the '90s anime, and just like I don't know, and that's really just talking to my brother about that. Even though I still haven't gone back and watched those movies and really have no interest to, I just like I didn't want to dismiss and devalue his experience. But the reason I just thought about it is because like you can also contrast Thorin with Smaug because they're both greedy, and the fact that Thorin was greedy and wanted to hold on to this gold just like Smaug leads to his death. So it's like, oh, there's another contrast there. And another layer in which Smaug adds to the narrative. Thank you, Traverser. I just glad you like my stuff. And to Tanya, cool. You can catch the VOD. It'll be up. I'll label it part 2. So if they happen to be the exact same length, because I know the thumbnail is going to be the same. But yeah, thank you for popping in though. I'm gonna watch more of this video. But yeah, I just realized something else that I could add to the video. But I know there's something I disagree with, so we'll get to that in this video.
In turn, making the story about Smaug, about this character who only enters the story at the very end. Would some tragic flashback really deepen his character any, or making him a foil to Bard? A character who
That might have been a response because I just know I've seen some discourse about like people feeling like characters need flashbacks or not necessarily tragic backstories. Like I remember there was one person who didn't like the storyteller. He did like some Danganronpa critique videos, which I thought at the time I thought there was they had stuff of value to be said. I just haven't thought about them or their points in a long time. I really don't remember, but I remember he said like he needed to know why Komida became the way he did. When Komida explains it, in that like he's just a product of like how society he has the world's views basically. And I remember just at the time thinking about how like I liked Ashino Joe, and one of the things I like about the manga that the anime doesn't quite translate is we don't get any flashbacks that show how Joe was like before he shows up in chapter 1. Like we don't get Joe's past. He's tomorrow's Joe. We get his present and how that leads into his future. So and I like that element. And, the anime actually does have some flashbacks, which, are neat in their own way, but they do kind of take away that aspect I liked about the original manga. And I just think people like, I don't know, because especially like Oda, like with One Piece, like we do get these great ass flashbacks for the characters. So when we get a character like Hody Jones or Kaido, where like their past isn't really as important, I guess, because like with Hody's past, it was more about like what didn't happen to him, and then Kaido's was just like it was a relatively short flashback for a character who we already had so much context for from how much we saw him from the arc, like the Odin flashback, like we already knew so much about him that I don't like, like what we got with the flashback was just like here's a little extra context to frame these things a bit more clearly, because I picked up on some of these like his wanting to conquer the world of violence and reduce it to more people to animals, basically, like that was clear from Act 1. The flashback just drove it home, but people like just kind of forcing the need for a flashback, or not forcing the need, but just really wanting that, even though it doesn't necessarily make the story better, because that's all it's just a narrative tool, a flashback. And the question is, do you need every tool for every job? Like I mentioned with Ashino Joe, it's like I like that they don't use this tool for the only character who they do use a flashback with is Dampe, and he's an old man who is trapped by his past, and his past keeps coming back to haunt him, so it makes sense to actually see it. But it doesn't have it almost never happens in the entire manga, right? So and yeah, Traverser, let villains be villains. That's fair too. We can have the sympathetic villains who do get these flashbacks, and just, or even not even sympathetic. Like I think, because sometimes we get the flashbacks. Like I remember there's the character in Danganronpa 2, Teru, and I remember saying, oh, he gets a flashback because you're supposed to feel bad for him. And part of me is like, well, he's a fucking child being forced into a shitty circumstance. Like, but oh, he's a pervert, therefore we should want him to die. Like, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit, but like, I don't know. But sometimes it's like, just because we get a like Big Mom, I don't feel like anything about the flashback, even though it's a tragic flashback. I still don't feel bad for her. She's still an awful person, and one of my favorite antagonists in One Piece. I love Big Mom. She's a piece of shit. She's great. Anyway.
Much more important for the non-Smaug related things he does after his victory, and at what point would he still be Smaug? Any character would be strictly better with more screen time and focus in theory, but Smaug is the perfect character for the role in the story he fulfills as is, and to judge him under any other lens is negligent of the narrative intent. There's no room in the story for him to be a better character, and as a plot device,
you know what? They should release a big prequel movie that just explains Smaug, because we totally need that. I don't know. I just remembered like that the need for that in just Hollywood, because people just want every little thing explained, right? Like with Star Wars, people, it's like, oh, remember when the Clone Wars was just a thing Obi-Wan said, and now it's got a whole fucking movie and 3 television series, where it's like, there's good things to come out of that. Like, people really like the Clone Wars animated series, but there's also this, like, it's a little less fantastic, because people just want to know every little detail, and we can't just let it be. Um, and though I've never watched the show, but I know my friend really likes The Leftovers, which is a live action TV show that even in the opening there's a lyric about just let the mystery be. And so if you want that, if you're interested in that, try The Leftovers. Really, here it's a really good show. My friend, it's one of my friend's favorite things basically, and it sounds really interesting when he talks about it. So I need to watch it, but yeah.
So why is it to be taken as an issue that this character is in fact a plot device? It's merely an observation, yet somehow deducing that a character is in fact a plot device is considered actual criticism. A spade is called a spade and is called bad for its very existence. A plot device is a storytelling tool, just as the protagonist is. But no one is pointing out that Bilbo is the protagonist and labeling it as criticism.
I just imagine it like, oh, Bilbo's the protagonist. Oh, because it's kind of the same, like, the story stops feeling real when you, like, because I remember people liked Game of Thrones because it's like, oh, characters can die, right? Like, there's this sense of reality to it because, like, oh, not even the main characters are safe. But then you watch longer and it's like, oh, no, these characters are clearly very important, and if they die, it'll be at the very end, right? So it's just kind of a silly way to look at things because it's like if the entire basis of you liking a thing is the level at which it's distracting you from reality and making you think, tricking you into thinking that it's real, then the more you understand, the more stories you engage with, the harder it's going to be to do that. So maybe it's not the best. I mean, hey, if that's the way you enjoy stories, but like maybe it's not the best way. I'm just saying, like, only enjoying something because of how real it appears to you. Like reality television is a lot like that because my dad watches a lot of it. I know enough about it that I know when it's fake. I know how fake. I know how the producers influence things. I know, like, sure, even if the individuals we see on screen, there's a level of genuineness to their, like, they're exaggerating genuine feelings a lot of time. But then there's also parts, whenever they're sitting in like this and speaking to a camera, they're probably speaking off of a script to tell the narrative that the producers want to tell. Right? So if you watch a reality show as like wrestling as the narrative, then that's like the only way you're going to continue to enjoy it once you realize that it's not really real, right? So it's like, I don't know how much and what, it doesn't really work that way. Um Oh yeah, I never watched Solo. Because yeah, Titania mentioned how I knew about that. A random Empire soldier gave Han Solo the name, but apparently that isn't really questioned or brought up or the irony of it. And I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but just again, that's just another example of like needing to explain things. That's like, I don't know. And yeah, no. Traverser mentions convenient reality. Yeah, convenient reality is a good way to put it. Like, my friend mentioned there's a comedy western show where, because apparently back in the West, in that time you'd have to literally wash cow assholes so that you could sell them, because like who wants to buy a cow with just shit running down its ass, right? And the only time he's ever seen that is in a comedy show, because like even though nowadays the Western has been de-romanticized so that you can get stuff like 1883 where it's just like, yeah, here's the fucking violence, or I read Blood Meridian this year. Neither of those mentioned washing cow assholes, like, or like, yeah, nobody in Game of Thrones dies of dysentery. I made a joke because like, even by the rules of Game of Thrones, so to speak, because in season 1, I don't remember the king's name, Eddard's brother, who he was talking about how like, oh, nobody tells you that in the songs that people shit themselves when they die because he killed someone in his first battle and they smelled like shit because their bowels emptied out. And so when a major character dies at the end of season 5 and they come back to life in season 6, I remember making a joke with a friend. It's like, shouldn't he have had a bunch of shit in his pants when he woke up? Because it's like they established this thing in Game of Thrones, but then ignore it later because it wouldn't make for a better because there's the emotions there of this character's fucking dead and then they got brought back to life. Like that isn't enhanced. That's only made funny with them shitting themselves when they die, right? Like it doesn't add to the tragedy of it because it's gross, but it's just so it's just like, yeah, it's a convenient reality. But yeah, anyway.
And should be judged for their ability to fulfill that purpose. Now, if a tool is bad at fulfilling its purpose, or could be replaced, then it becomes another matter entirely.
Oh
We've
no!
already established that a bad plot device might be arbitrary,
Fuck.
contrived,
This
or
is.
even
I think
unnecessary.
this is where I
So
get.
now let's cut into one I feel
Yep.
is less
Yep.
effective at
Yep.
their role in
Yep.
the story. Enoshima Junko
So I want to talk about Junko for a minute before I get into the video, because I don't think I've completely come around on her. Like, she's not like my favorite character in Danganronpa or anything. But like, because I've been working on a Danganronpa video, and literally actually for 2 years now, because about 2 years ago I replayed all the games, and I just kind of never got around to scripting it. And I was trying to script it, and I hit a sticking point with Junko, because it's like, I think Junko is actually like really interesting in ways that I was not giving credit at this point. Like, and I don't think I even realized it until like, yeah, replaying the game last time and being like, oh, piecing all these things together. So I will say, so I already understand things about her now, but and honestly, even one of the things I found out about a while ago, like someone pointed out, like it was one of those the Gundam memes, you know, where there's the mecha's like, war is bad, and it's like, oh, cool robot. It was one of those, but it was something about like, I don't remember which one it was or what the other one was, but it was just like Junko as a representation of teenage nihilism, and yeah, that ended up kind of being pretty important into how I read Danganronpa. And just because I remember my point here, but I'll she is also hot, yes, that's true. But I just like, I still think I'd find her a bit obnoxious, but like, at least in what she, because I don't remember. Let's actually get to my point here before I talk a bit more. But
is the main antagonist of the Danganronpa franchise, though I'll primarily be talking about the first game here, as it utilizes her in her most active role as an unashamed plot device. She spends most of the game
see, I don't think, I don't know. Can you call it? I guess. I don't know. I just was wondering about, because like plot device is obviously very like kind of. It's a casual term. It's not something like you wouldn't. I don't think you'd bust open an academic book or paper and see them talk about plot device characters, right? I feel like that's something born from more like reviews and online discussion. And now I'm actually wondering about the that like, where does the term come from, basically. But I don't know, I just had the thought of like, because obviously Junko and Smaug are also antagonists, main antagonists even. So it's like, I guess like, could you have a plot protagonist who you could also consider a plot device character? Because that would be a little odd, because they're kind of like the heart of the narrative, basically. But maybe, I don't know. I guess like I'm not. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just randomly thinking. But yeah, I'll watch more of the video.
Headmaster Monokuma, as she's trapped her classmates in a killing game, only allowing them to leave the high school turned shelter if they kill one of their peers and get away with the crime. While as Monokuma she claimed that she would be honest, only giving white lies over the course of the story, further deceptions are uncovered, in particular her act of not following her own rules as she killed another classmate and framed it on the main characters. Their uncovering of this murder prompting her to show herself and begin the finale that unravels the rest of the mysteries built up over the course of the story. So to say she's contrived is a bit of a stretch. She was adequately foreshadowed through Mukuro, and
I say it's a bit of a stretch while I'm stretching in real life. That was a complete accident.
As these are addressed within the story, one can't say it's totally contrived, as the actions are in service of her motivation. But that motivation is where the issue crops up, specifically in the nature of her potential arbitrarity. Because to answer the question of if she is truly arbitrary or not, we need to ask, why did Monokuma...
See, I ended up using that word because I think, like, I guess I personally subscribe to, I guess, what you'd probably call, like, existentialist philosophy, where I think that humans finding meaning and finding value in meaning is really important. And I think that shows in a lot of my videos, because a lot of them are like, here's the point. Here's what this work accomplishes. Here's the ideology, like the meaning that this work is espousing, right? Seeing fiction as like, it's a reflection, it's, a reflection of reality as through the lens of the creators, basically. Right. So I noticed that I just use the word arbitrary a lot, because I see it as like where it's something relatively meaningless, right? Where it's like, if you could replace it with something else, like, apples to oranges is a common phrase, right? But in a theory, you could say bananas to lemons, and it would mean functionally the same thing. Like, but kind of not really, because it's a common phrase. And when I say apples to oranges, you're thinking of a very specific idea. But like generally, just the idea that parts can be substituted. And if it can't be substituted and it has to be the thing, then it's meaningful, I guess. And if it can be substituted, then it's arbitrary. Maybe, I guess, is my thing. So I just was like, oh, Junko's arbitrary. You could swap her out, and it would make her more. I don't know. Not sure if I agree with that. I don't know. I'm just trying to explain why I tend to use that word, I guess, because I feel like at the specific. I feel like I don't use it that much anymore in videos, but at a certain, I just did at a certain point.
For the story as is, Monokuma had to be a student as the possibility was suggested and it's in line with the established rules. It had to be Junko because of how Mukuro was established and killed. But to use that exclusively as an explanation suggests that the story's makeup in service of fitting Junko into it are only for the sake of fitting her into it. The loophole and suggestion that the mastermind is among them are only in service of
God,
Junko
is this
and
just gonna
Mukuro,
mean me not
as
getting
they never
Junko?
apply to any other situation.
Probably.
Mukuro herself is primarily significant for her position as a tool being used and abused by the mastermind. But if you were to take the same scenario and swap Junko for, say, Sellies,
Nope.
what would
Nope.
actually change?
Nope. A lot.
In order to really judge Junko as a plot device, we have to widen the scope to the whole picture. To break down the thematic thrust of Danganronpa, it serves as a response to the social situation regarding high school and its students in Japan. The end of high school is a death of sorts. Because to leave high school, a place of expression and relative freedom,
I'm just waiting
is
for
to
it.
go to a workforce of assimilation and uniformity.
Gonna say something dumb.
The threat of such a life is one that makes the idea of leaving high school one of dread and anxiety.
Because that's the problem, is like I kind of get it. Like I'm doing what I get mad at in other, because it's so frustrating when it's like they kind of get the point, but then they're missing like one little observation or point that just tips them over into like you getting it now. And so I feel like this is being me here, because it's like, yeah, I understood this point about Danganronpa, but I didn't fully understand how Junko fit into it. And yeah, I guess how I was seeing a plot device character is a character who's only there to fulfill like a role in regards to like the story moving along, basically. Like I think here, since I know you're caught up with One Piece, Tanya. Example of a character, I don't know if I bring them in this video, but I remember I talked about them on Curious Cat at the time, was Brûlée from One Piece was kind of called a plot device character because she had the mirror devil fruit. And that devil fruit was so important in like the mechanics of and like the way that Luffy versus Katakuri was allowed to happen, right? Because it's just this one character who had this ability that allowed her to teleport on the island, right? So it's like people, even though that character is like her relation with Katakuri is really important, and there's characterization there with like her scar and like how she hates cute and pretty things, and and like and like this was before we got those last couple chapters with her back with that flashback with Katakuri and stuff. And I just remember people were complaining about her because of like basically just sort of reducing her to her role in the story rather than like thinking about the character. I think Flampe wasn't it Flambe? Yeah, the fucking bubblegum bitch who didn't like Katakuri after loving him, and or Alika from Hunter x Hunter was another one who was kind of dismissed as a plot device character. So we're just so it's already like really ridiculous, because obviously all these examples I think are really effective for what they do in the story, but yeah, like I guess Smaug, they aren't necessarily meant to be like full characters in a sense. They only fulfill these very specific functions in the story. But when you get down to it, all characters just kind of fulfill specific functions in the story. You just have instances of like main characters who do that a lot because they're in a lot of the story, and in all these instances they're being very specific. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm how I'm defining it, I guess, if that helps, but I don't know that it would help. I hope it helped rather. So
this dread represented by painting the world outside of Danganronpa's high school as apocalyptic. But it's only potentially so, and even despite that potential for disaster, the main cast resolves to go into the outside world hopeful, accepting of who they are and ready to do their absolute best. Junko serves as a counterpoint by representing some vague concept of despair, a term that means...
Yeah, see, I know this has a complaint that I've seen Danganronpa get, but it's really funny. It's, God, I'll let the video play because that's really funny.
Little to nothing even in its own context. let alone trying to take the rest of the
It's nothing. I just explained that she's like a teenage nihilist. That's the whole point. It doesn't mean anything. Like, she doesn't think the world means anything. So if I'm literally like seeing the nihilism there and then going, but it doesn't mean anything. It's like, yeah, that's what she thinks. That's why she's wrong. Because yeah, I know people, like, I remember hearing the complaint that like, or the take that they like the conflict of Danganronpa V3 better because lies and truth and lies is way more like intuitive and you understand it, where hope and despair is kind of vague. But like, Danganronpa as a work is pretty existential, which involves applying meaning, right? And I think literally hope versus despair is a conflict of existentialism versus nihilism. You know, despair, nothing has meaning. Existentialism, meaning is assigned by humans, and that factors into Naegi and Junko. I don't know. So, Blue Princess is like, Junko is like an airheaded Garu is the evil mass murderer instead, with 12 level IQ instead of like, I don't know, because I feel like, wouldn't it be lost if someone else was the mastermind? I mean, people literally thought Hagakure was the mastermind because like, he's also a fucking dumbass. In fact, he's incredibly stupid. But like, you know, he's also could tell the future. So it's like, so there, I remember seeing some points as like, oh, what if because that would also be shocking, and if that would, like, in the same way, I guess. So uh but anyway,
franchise into account. And even to look past that, her pride and self-certainty do serve as a mirror to Naigi's humble self-confidence. But this isn't an avenue Junko stands out in. Celes and Leon too refuse to change from their dominating pride, whereas Togami
well,
did.
yeah. See, I think I brought this up when we did the stream on the Danganronpa videos, because I feel like because I did kind of divide the characters into like, these characters are uncertain about themselves, like Chihiro or Owada, and then these characters are certain about themselves and prideful, like Togami and was one of them. Celes I'd put into the prideful category because that was how she she presented herself, but really she didn't like herself. She put on a fake identity because she didn't like who she was, basically. So I feel like that point kind of came out of that observation, basically, when now the specific with Celes, I'm like, I don't think that observation held up.
Them each define their worth and greatness by their ultimate talent, but only Togami was willing to move beyond that, and so he was the only one who survived. Which once again begs the question of why the mastermind needed to be Junko when her only relevance thematically is either not unique to her, or is a meaningless descriptor that offers nothing to the meaning and takeaway of the ending. Junko is arbitrary as a plot device because her character is in service to nothing but the story. She enables the story of others.
So okay, let me explain why it's really, really, really important that Junko's an antagonist. And it's not so here's the thing, it's in Danganronpa 1, but it's not explained in Danganronpa 1. Kind of this, so because like one point I make in my old Danganronpa videos is that Naigi's talent of a lucky student, he has the exact same talent as Komaeda. Like, you can point at all these instances with him and see that he also has like unlucky incidents turning into lucky incidents, which is exactly what Komaeda manipulates with like the straws and the fucking roulette. No, actually that wasn't even his talent with the roulette. The not roulette, but it's more specific, I guess, like with the fifth trial. So with Junko, they do the same thing where they explain her talent in Danganronpa 0 because through a different character who has the same talent of analysis. And basically, what an observation that I've realized since is that it basically, the conflict of hope and despair is represented through their actual talents. Naegi, the lucky student, and Enoshima Junko as the analyst. Because basically, Junko, she said she was born in the world into despair. Through her analysis, she sort of sees everything objectively. She can kind of, basically, in some ways, see the future. She's kind of like a hot anime high school girl, Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. Like, that's kind of who Junko is. And that was part of the conflict with him, is that he just, because he just saw the world objectively through as just a series of events happening to happen, he like there was the line with Silk Spectre. Is that her? Oh, it's been so long since I've read Watchmen. But the girl and oh, like it's a miracle that a human is born, because it's like through the every birth is like a one in fucking hundreds of millions of chances of for the to be that for that person to be exactly who they are, let alone all the descendants they have, right? And just recognizing that, like, the importance of that random chance and the results that it has in even just every human being. But again, if you're just looking at it objectively, it's just a thing that happens, right? There is no chance in the grand scheme of the universe, basically, because it's all just a bunch of things that just happen. Where Nike's talent is kind of the opposite, right? Because you could like there's a part in the worst day in Mokoto's life, which is like a little short story that was with the first DVD, the first Blu-ray disc, I believe. It's available. I've read it a couple times, and basically, we see the staff of Hope's Peak Academy be espousing that same ideology. Like, they don't even want to study luck anymore because they don't see it as valuable, because it's just random things. It's just things that happen, right? That humans assign meaning to. And like they don't think it's real, basically. Even though Komada is like scary to them because of the way he can manipulate that luck, right? So in a way, basically Nagi and Komada kind of, if any, in the rules of Danganronpa, they prove the opposite, because like they're able to, they're assigning, by saying something is lucky or unlucky, you're assigning a meaning to an event that shouldn't have meaning, right? Like, so again, that goes into the existentialism nihilism conflict. Like, Junko can't see luck; she doesn't understand it. Like, we see that in Danganronpa 3, because she's just like, I don't fucking get what this guy's doing, because she tries to kill him and he just like slips on a thing, and so unluckily he slips on a thing, and luckily he doesn't die, right? And she, so the conflict of hope and despair is right there in Naigi's talent as a lucky student and Enoshima Junko's talent as an analyst. But I didn't understand that when I made this video. So anyway,
yet doesn't truly connect to it in a meaningful way that helps her stand out as an antagonist of any note beyond happening to be the final one. So now, let's see how we can fix Junko.
Oh god. See,
but as a plot device.
I'm glad I didn't, like, I don't know, I don't really like, I mean, there's fan fiction and stuff. Like, if you don't like an aspect of the story, you're welcome to try, do it on your own and put it out there. But like, I don't know. I just like, there's also just that level of like, Danganronpa's already out. It's already released. The creators have moved on to other things. Or in some, I'm sure some of the staff is still with Spike Chunsoft, because we've been waiting on Ultimate Spell Girls 2 for a million years, and I don't know. I don't need to see more Danganronpa. I'm fine with the franchise just there. But like, I don't know. I just remember in my my Diary Ranger video, I was like, how would I fix the ending? Well, first I'd go back in time and learn Japanese, like, just kind of highlighting the absurdity of trying to fix something like that. But I'll entertain the idea.
To give her character development would again give her too much focus and detract from the other characters. And as much as I would like to change her characterization, it's only partly relevant to the actual discussion. So to approach Junko, we need to talk about her two halves, herself and Monokuma. I bring up Monokuma because, as headmaster of the academy,
oh yeah, that's right. I remember my point now.
Story. It's only the students who can graduate.
So one of the things I noticed replaying Danganronpa is it actually foreshadows Junko a lot, and part of that is through the Monokuma theaters, which, like, your first time through, you're supposed to see them as like the random nonsense of this comedy character, but then there's a lot of them that actually, like, you can see. If you think about the elements of Junko's character, like her analysis, like there's one that literally foreshadows her analysis, because it's like, it describes Monokuma, like, basically Monokuma talks about being at a friend's house when they were playing a video game, and some other friends came over and they were really interested in this game, and Monokuma was like, I could tell all the strategies just from, without even playing it, just from watching it, because she has the analysis talent. She can just look at things and understand them intuitively, right? So I just remember playing, and I was like, what the fuck? Because it's just I just never picked up on that foreshadowing there before, and I remember seeing another comment of someone pointing out another one. So it's like, so as two halves of the character, it's like, no, they're the same character. When we're supposed to, like, obviously they act in different ways, but like, and yeah, Monokuma is a mask for Junko, but like, Yeah, because I'm pretty sure in V3, there's some ways in which Monokuma foreshadows the mastermind as well. That they're the mastermind, but it's also I don't remember if I've thought about that because also there's just so many little gags with like the Monokubs and whatever that I just didn't really get that much out of. So I don't know. It's been I did play it a couple years ago, but I didn't really think about that aspect while playing it very much. So um, to talk, or is Junko the mask? That would be Danganronpa 4. Junko just, I was actually the bear the whole time. Sorry, the idea is funny to me.
The headmaster is only the facilitator. Had Monokuma been the final antagonist, there would be no issue.
There would be no plot twist in a mystery story. You know? Maybe. Because, like, even, like, yeah, Danganronpa 2 and V3 also have, like, big major plot twists, and it's exciting, and it's fun, and interesting.
The characters grow from it and move on. It's not great, but it does the bare minimum. However,
I did that on purpose. The bare minimum. I know I did that on purpose. I remember because no, because I'd written my Danganronpa fanfiction trilogy at this point, and I did use a lot of bear puns when it came to Monokuma because it's funny.
the developers chose to include a final twist for the mastermind. They chose to make the headmaster into a student. Yet they did not tie her to the theme in a way that makes for a meaningful final villain.
He did.
Her murder of Mukuro is only in service to this reveal
No.
than the actual core of the story. As once she is revealed, the rules she broke are quickly pushed aside as the story simply moves on.
Well, that's
So in order
Junko doesn't really like believe she sees things that humans have created as meaningless and arbitrary, like society, like part of the she just thinks it's all stupid. I think one of the Monokuma theaters, or maybe there's some other big example. I just can't think of them. I will say, so because I've been working on my Danganronpa video, so I'll just say it here because I've told some friends. But basically, my plan is the next year I'm going to replay Danganronpa on the stream. So I will have fun with that. So part of it is to just because I want to replay it and I want to make sure I've got everything out of Junko before I talk about her, because I was writing the script and I just hit a sticking point with her because I feel like I get her character, but yet it's not flowing onto the page in the way I want it to. So I just figured, like, fuck it, we'll replay the first game and just really dig in. And if I do it on stream, that way I can also just share other observations. Like, I kind of explained the broad point, but I could just have I'll have chat there, and maybe I'll get other ideas while playing the game again. So just thought I'd share because I haven't wanted to do it this year because since I've been keeping track of my media consumption on a year-to-year basis, so I don't want to like start big things that I can't finish by next year. So I just I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's just me being weird. I just rather spend my time this year on stuff that I can finish this year, and then next year kind of start fresh and go into things that are going to be longer. But
to fix Junko, there needs to be something to her that's connected to the thematic core in a way not echoed by the previous antagonists. And the easiest way to do that would simply be to let her live.
no,
Not to escape
I mean,
school, just to survive. The primary conflict...
yeah, I guess I kind of see where I was coming from there, where like, oh, if they're like have her remain a child and stay stuck in the school while the others grow up and graduate, like that makes sense. But like, I don't know, it doesn't. It's just it doesn't really make that much of it. I don't know. It's like maybe I don't know. It comes from a place of me just not getting Junko. So yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I don't know.
Characters in the end is if they should leave the school or not. Leaving means they can begin their lives on their own power, while to stay is to remain stagnant in high school. Junko loved her classmates, and created a
I mean,
situation
she
where
survives
could
through the
control
AI.
them in
Yeah,
high
that's
school
true because
for
she's technically also the
classmates
mastermind in
moved past her and escaped,
Danganronpa 2 and Older
which
Sphere
would have left
Girls.
her alone, sealed in her dream high school until she chose to leave herself and take the steps towards adulthood that the others did. All these pieces that would go towards getting Junko in line with the thematic push are there, but instead of being tied to the actual meaning of the story, Instead, she chooses to kill herself.
So yeah, the
and
computer I
kills
recorded that
everyone.
on Danganronpa 1 was not good. That's why you saw some like weird audio glitches there. That wasn't the ending of the video. That was the footage that I recorded on my own.
Spare, leaving little to nothing to take from her character as the story instead removes the plot device after she has fulfilled her role, only to bring her back when she has more plots to devise.
No.
She's not a bad plot device.
See, even in
because she's
Danganronpa 2, like they talk about how like there's a scene where Nanami and Hinata are investigating yeah, it would have been Murder 5. And they find the class registry that Ko might have found, and they talk about the imposter, and Nanami sort of talks about like talent as, you know, a burden, basically, as like a chain, something that, you know, traps people, you know, which of course for the imposter he could only live as an imposter, right? And even though he ultimately wanted identity, you know, so for Nanami she was an AI, so she struggled with her programming, with her code, but ultimately she was able to like surpass her programming and her code. But you know, a big that I think that relates to basically all the Danganronpa 2 characters and Junko, because they're all trapped by their talents. They can't see a road for them that doesn't involve them doing their talent. When at the end, when in a lot of cases that has like that they struggled with that, and they, you know, like Peko being the swordsman, you know, she's also Kuzuru's tool, right? Junko was born into despair. Like she couldn't escape her own talent, basically, right? So like so not only is Junko's talent is she relevant, and her thing with analysis and her burden of talent is relevant. It's not only major relevant to Danganronpa 1, but it's still relevant to Danganronpa 2, even though she has a smaller role.
A good character, but rather she's a bad plot device because the elements that make up her character are in service to a story that works just as well without her.
No!
If not better. Something that can't be
See,
said
this
about
is like
Smaug.
this is me doing exactly the same shit I got on Super Hype Wolf for doing. Did I do this? Hold on. Did I do this video before or after the Super Hype Wolf one? Because if I did that after, I'm gonna fucking beat someone's ass. That person being me. Yeah, it looks like it is before. I think. Hold on, where is the? No, I did do this before because I did. Yeah, iPatch Wolf was my 50th video. This is my 42nd video. Okay, so it's still not good because I wouldn't have recognized at the time. But it's like, I'm literally like, I don't like this thing, so I'm gonna come up with an explanation, like a logical, good reason why it's correct to dislike this thing. Because objectivity, because bad media literacy. Like I can't just be like because obviously if it was just like I don't like Junko as an antagonist because she's obnoxious, like what? But no, it has to be about like how she doesn't. It doesn't mean she doesn't add meaning to Danganronpa. She does. Right? Like, oops.
Without Smaug, you don't have Bilbo's well-earned boasting. You don't have the core of the Hobbit. But without Junko, you still have Monokuma, or some other character who
gets
can serve
Monokuma!
just as well. And to give one last example to drive the point home,
I think I remember because I think there was someone on 4chan talking about fucking Good Striker from Lupin Ranger vs. Pat. Wow, I did not remember I talked about Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger in this video. That is because yeah, I know. I think I remember now. I remember there was a comment on 4chan calling him like he's just a plot device or whatever. Because I think he or no, was this before? Because this would have been why I was going. Because I think I make a call here and I happen to be correct. But let's. Yes.
Good Striker from Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger is a sentient treasure from the Lupin collection and the key piece to both the final strike and giant Kaiser robots used to defeat the monstrous Ganglers. Thus far, his primary role in the story has been to swoop in.
I think this is the first time I talked about Toku on my channel. No, it definitely was because this is the show that got me into Toku or got me back into it. Because obviously I liked Power Rangers as a kid, but I kind of fell off of it. I did come back to RPM because it sounded interesting from TV tropes. So that was like 2009. But I never went back to Toku until 2018 when I watched. I saw a clip of Lupin vs. Pat Ranger and it looked funny. So I decided to watch it and I found literally one of my favorite shows ever. And this I made relatively early while the first half was still airing. I don't think the mid-season Ranger had showed up yet. But yeah. So I think this was the first time I talked about Toku on my channel.
Sometimes this aid will be as a reward for some kind of character moment, such as when Keiichiro decides his priority is to protect the people rather than just focus on the Lupin Rangers. But more often, it's obligatory, and the big action set pieces come with the property. To view him as a plot device, his actions are arbitrary, as even pointed out in scenes like the one I just showed where he pokes fun of his tendency to show up at just the right moment. And as he is an anomaly among the pieces of the Lupin collection, one could say he was contrived, but to widen the scope and ask what he's in service to, we can't yet. At the time of this writing, Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger is only about 25% complete. So while at the present time, disliking him for his role in the story isn't unjustified, but as the story hasn't concluded, it really isn't fair to judge him for his role as a plot device in the story quite yet, as that role isn't concluded either. With Smaug and Junko, their stories...
So, I think I said something... I'm surprised, I guess I didn't say it. Did I say it in this video? Let me let it finish.
Be added to. But Good Striker does have that freedom. Now, I'm not one for predictions or clickbait titles, but let's take a crack at what would keep Good Striker from being just an arbitrary little plot device. Is Good Striker secretly evil?
I was waiting for it. I remember these. Like, that was a parody, because we were doing the response to... yeah, I think, or did we already do it at that point? Yeah, because we did a big response to, I think, was it Set the Programmer? I think, yeah, no, it was Set the Programmer, because like there was a whole thing before the shit went down with him this year. But we already had issues with him, but then he ended up becoming friends with and kind of, it was weird. No, and I guess they were, I don't know the full details. Yeah, no, it's because like the times of 1 trillion multiplier, that's like a power scaling thing. So I don't know. I just remember having fun making these gag thumbnails. And I was like, once I saw them, I was like, oh yeah, I remember those thumbnails. I was waiting for them.
Is stronger than you think. How I see it, if the question is on what Good Striker might be in service to beyond the set piece moments, then one avenue would be to reveal a motivation for his actions, such as pushing the 2 Sentai teams together, which would recontextualize his prior deeds, ideally in service of whatever idea the show is intending to explore. He also has ties to the Lupin collection, and thus Arsène Lupin, which may also allow or inform the characterization of the surviving Lupin estate, depending on how his character is expanded on and connected to the other mysteries of the collection. Or he might never get more focused.
Okay, so yeah, he ends up, or did they?
The little plot device he is. Good Striker could turn out to be good or bad, but recognizing him as a plot device
secretly evil.
Serviceable criticism, as a plot device is meant to be in service to a larger story, and one that's not over yet should only be dissected and evaluated under the knowledge that it isn't over, and thus that the big picture isn't clear yet. And as the use of a plot device isn't something larger, they can't really be evaluated on their own terms. It would be like trying to rate a sword's hilt as if it were a weapon on its own. All stories are constructed and designed to get across its messages.
Yep.
But if you are to see that construction, pointing it out doesn't serve as meaningful criticism in and of itself, just like a plot device character is one that can't work exclusively for itself. Every character can be better and stronger if they get more focus from the story, but applying such expectations to every single character is negligent of the larger picture that the story as a whole is in service to, and of how stories are told in general. A character works primarily for the story they were made for, and no matter how well fleshed out and developed they are, that context is inseparable from all characters, big and small. Special thanks to my patron.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, it turns out, I was correct. Good Striker, episode 18. I'm pretty sure they explained that Good Striker had made a promise with Lupin, and that was relevant to the conflict. There's a very funny part where they do, because like if you haven't seen Ikiru, which is the Akira Kurosawa movie, one of my favorite movies, I really need to rewatch it. There's a part because he gets diagnosed with stomach cancer and he goes to a child's playground and he swings on this. No, actually that's the end of the movie. But a lot of time sorry, background noise. A lot of the times you'll see it referenced with characters in sad. They'll swing on the swing. And Good Striker gets in the fight with the Lupin Rangers, and then the Red Ranger goes to a park, and we see this little toy on the swing using his thrusters to like swing, and it's so funny. But anyway, he explains that he was trying to fulfill a promise to Lupin to gather the collection. So, which ties to another idea that I was picking up on that I kind of talked about in my video, about promises being like a form of rule, a law in a sense, and how that like he works in a way that factors into the whole of the conflict, even if it's a relatively small way. But like he there's character stuff there. Yeah, staring out the ocean, that's another trope. But I feel like the swing thing is specifically referencing Ikiru because like it's fucking Akira Kurosawa. It's just hard for me not to it's hard for me to detach that because it's so relevant. I am hella behind on chat. All right. Anyway, okay. Next video. Which one? Let me get rid of the ones that we already took care of. Because yeah, see, there's 2 videos that are decent. Like, okay, it's like of the videos, like 4 of them are like over 20 minutes, I think, or close to 20 minutes. I mean, yeah, Traverso, you can request something, but if I've already rewatched it, I won't rewatch it. So, I'm a little hesitant for one of the longer ones, but we'll see. Oh no, I already rewatched that one, and you can see. I mean, it's on my side channel, or there's a playlist on either my main channel or my side channel, where it's like, let me link it, just to be safe. Nope, wrong one. Do I not have it on my main channel? No, I do not. That's unusual and not good. Whatever, it's on my side channel. It should be. Nope. What? What? No, I definitely made a playlist. Hold on. Because I made a playlist of my removed videos. Because yeah, there's a reason to rewatch it right there, just to make so it's still available. Why do I not? Is the playlist unlisted? Motherfucker. I gotta find it. Anyway, but yeah, no, I rewatched because a while ago I made a let me find that playlist because I know I have it, and I just want to make sure people who want to watch those videos have access to them. There it is, remove videos. Okay, I'm linking it in the description in the comments, and I'll try and remember to link it in the description. Yeah, because I already watched it. I think I rewatched all my old One Piece videos. Yeah, but I already rewatched it and I left a comment there explaining the problems I have with the video. So yeah. Yeah, I already rewatched the mid battle plot. I did talk about Fairy Tail in that video, and I also responded to that. I already have a comment on that one. You know what? Let's do the anime pervert one because I just thought I mentioned that in the My Hero Academia video. So why not? Because so like I guess yeah, the My Hero Academia video had Mineta, so we're doing the pervert character video, and I mentioned the plot device character video, so we did that one already. So yeah, but All right, let's go. This one is 20 minutes long. It's probably this one's probably gonna be the last one because yeah, I know one issue people had with the video that I think is fair, but it's been a while since I watched it, or maybe I'm thinking of a different video. I don't know. It's been a while since I watched this one. All right. Oh no, that's right. It already starts off badly because it linked a article in the description that was supposed to be like, because I think I had someone else edit this video. No, this Manji edited this video, and I open up talking about the article because I start off explaining that hey, you should read this article first because it's like a good jumping off point, and then I don't, except yeah, I don't have the note at the start of the video explaining or linking the article. So it's like in the description, and if I don't mention that as in the description because I thought I was already supposed to mention it. So the video already starts off iffy, so unfortunate.
Now, if you've watched basically any amount of anime, especially those silly shonen stuffs, you've probably run into at least one of those pervert characters with noses bleeding and heart-shaped eyes. If you aren't a fan of those aspects, if it doesn't turn you off of the whole character entirely, I'm not surprised. But in its near ubiquity, I think it's worth discussing in more detail.
Wait a minute. How did that get by? Hold on. Those are just fucking whole ass nipples. Like they were covered by a shirt, kind of, but you could still see the whole ass nipple. That what? I don't want to go back because this stream is already kind of it's like just the fact that I had that is like, oh my god. I don't think that you're not allowed to show that on YouTube, let alone in the first 30 seconds of the video. Is this video age restricted? That's because if so, that's probably why I need to check that because that is potentially bad. Having properly labeled content. Yeah, there's anime. Nope, that's not the anime pervert video. Yep, it's age restricted. Okay, because it should be. Yeah, because they're okay. Well, and yeah, manual video not suitable for most advertisers. Yeah, I did not catch that before. Wow. Yeah. Titania saw it. The harpy girl from Monster Musume. You could just see her nipples. Through a wet shirt, mind, and she was holding on to some other characters. But you can still see them, and I just had that moment of like, how the fuck did that slip through? Like, because I'm pretty sure, like, oh my god. So yeah, I just assumed the video got age restricted because it's talking about sexual subject matter, but it's like, oh, that explains it.
Compared to Western child-targeted media that cuts out most sexuality in its entirety, presenting its characters in as desexualized a manner as possible, anime just goes in. But where Western instinct might initially think of it as something resembling mature content, exactly because of how relatively absent sexuality is in child-targeted media, in Japan it occurs in such media exactly because its portrayal evokes childishness. Completely unaware characters like Natsu or Goku don't know anything about sexuality, and lack of awareness breeds curiosity, something at times leaned into when series offer a more grounded portrayal of children, unaware but curious about the other sex, older or otherwise. Hopping to the other side of the lewd thought scale, you have the outright pervert. The pervert character evokes the fantasy that actual individuals cannot act out. The article directly comparing it to action heroes, where anyone...
Yeah, there it is. I referenced the article. What article? It's in the description, but I've never watched Gumball. I didn't edit this video. Sorry. And I was more talking about just general art styles because even then they're like about to kiss, but it's like just like obviously if you compare I mean and it's very like cartoons are just very abstract and there's a lot of stylistic differences between them. Like not that there's zero sexuality within them, like they'll have wide hips or I remember what was it Butch Hartman, where breasts are represented by like a point, but yeah, I think generally like it's still a fair observation, but because obviously there's a difference between like but anyway, I don't need to harp on that.
Expressing assault, murder, and violence fulfilled through unapologetically brutal action movies, Japan uses perverted scenes to evoke their equivalent fantasies. bending them towards comedy as a way to laugh at those attitudes. Older perverts appear because marriages aren't commonly sexually satisfying, and their childish behavior is meant to be foolish or laughed at. Because young or old, these characters aren't rewarded for their behavior. It evokes something people might think, but its wrongness is the butt of the joke, mockingly reducing the acting pervert to a state of powerlessness. The article frames it well, in that anime depicts perversity as a state of immaturity and of frozen time. Perverted characters remain frozen in their present, unable to move forward toward their goals. Ironically, their perversity prevents them from having fulfilled
Sure, there's
their desires.
exceptions to that. Like, it's a bit absolute, maybe, but as a general observation, I think it's fair. I think. Oh wait, did it say Animax? It did say there was a watermark. Unfortunate.
To take our boys from the thumbnail and examine some specific moments from each of them. Mineta is a pervert, but he also has a desire to be a hero, and these two desires are put at odds with each other in a test where he and Sero are up against the beautiful Midnight. With Sero knocked out of the running early, Midnight gives him a treatment that has Mineta deeply envious. Mineta openly admits that he became a hero because he wants girls. This behavior is a recurring conflict in the series, where Stain scorns the idea of heroes following their path for selfish or personal reasons, like fame or money.
I don't know if I realized myself the connection between like Mineta and Stain's ideals, or someone pointed out to me, but I don't know. It's like, here's this thing that people like about the series, using it to explain this thing that people don't like about the series.
Frozen in time as the student he is. But if he were to lose those personal desires entirely, he would likely not be a hero at all, or otherwise support Stain's idea that all heroes should be like All Might and no one else, ignoring that people can still do selfless things for personal, even selfish reasons. Mineta is able to make a concession in his desires, passing the test because he was able to act as a hero rather than the version of himself that wanted to jump right into Midnight's lap. Recovering Sero and passing the test, he very directly showed the link between personal growth and advancement beyond the stagnancy of childish perversity. Sanji's example is bound even more closely to romance. Throughout the series, he has frequent moments with other main characters or beautiful side characters, and let's just say this pretty much never goes well for him. Like, if he's not getting beaten up for doing something dumb, then he's dying from a nosebleed because he's a fucking stupid idiot. But then comes Pudding, a two-faced character he's had a variety of encounters with, including the lovey-dovey pervy thought kind that made her look forward to his planned assassination even more. She hated that childish behavior of his, but when he complimented her hated third eye, his response was much more calm and full of admiration, marking a shift in her feelings.
Already kind of talked about this in a different video, but
mood towards her was
it's
not
still
a
relevant.
pervert and fiancé, but a gentleman helping a woman save her home and mother. Because his actions and mood were more mature.
And you also kind of see it again with Osame and Wano, where he's very like, you know, he's got more of a like a princely demeanor to him, where he's not being a pervert, he's just being more of a gentleman, which is so just striking because he spent so much of the series not being that. But yeah, no, when it comes to put like he at the wedding he has hard eyes, but I feel like after that he's mostly he's just chill around her, and yeah, it's nice.
Progress with Pudding in just a few dozen chapters than he'd made with Nami in what is now over 900. Earning a kiss from her because he chose not to act like the child he still is when it comes to Nami, further showing the link these two ongoing stories have to this observation. Hell, Oda has even said that he wants Sanji to connect to young boys.
I like how I just realized it wasn't full screen, but that was very clearly cut off the text on the side. Whoops, unfortunate.
Even around the time his more mature interactions with Pudding would have taken place. If he truly desires his audience to connect to Sanji, then on some level...
I won't make fun of the editing too much, I did pay for it.
And if characters like him never get around to growing, well, hermits like Roshi are still alone for a reason. However,
that's what I mean when I say exceptions, because like another perfect character I remember is in Osmangadayo, had the teacher who kept harassing one of the girls in particular. I forget which one, but I remember. But he had a fucking wife, and possibly even did he have a kid? I don't remember. But it's like they were like, why the fuck, what? So yeah, it's definitely not universal.
Media still leaves an interesting question open regarding Western response to these kinds of characters, especially Mineta. From what I've seen, he seems to get much more hate than typical of these kinds of characters. And if I had to guess why, it's because outside of that aspect, he's just a gross little imp with fittingly uncool power and design.
Well, also in general, Mineta and Sanji are... maybe I bring that up.
The likes of Sanji or even Roshi have cool arcs or moments beyond those perverse attitudes.
Okay,
which
no,
allows those
yeah,
who don't mind.
because like I was just gonna say it's like the other thing with those is because I kind of talked about that on the Ayakashi Triangle Nen show where it's like, and Shapes talked about it too, where it's just like if you watch a lot of anime, you're gonna see it enough that you're probably not gonna get as like, not even if you still don't like it, because I know like Mathis doesn't like it at all, right? And I'm pretty sure Shapes doesn't care for it either. I don't care for it very much, right? But like you just get so used to it that it's just kind of hard to like harp on a very any single example because if it doesn't stand out, just because it's like you're just seeing it again like for the millionth time, right? Like so like but I guess my argument here is that Mineta doesn't have his people don't like his costume, even if it wasn't a pervert, like people don't really like his costume design. And it doesn't have, he has the moment earlier that I described, but has he really had anything since then? Maybe? I don't remember. I feel like he might have had something in this big arc, because this is the last big arc, and I feel like they're giving moments to a lot of characters. I just don't remember what they did for Mineta, if anything. If not, it would be sorry. I just have an like humor in like character people hate doing something really cool, and people having to be mad about it.
Those aspects as much to look past them and not
Oh yeah, oh no, Titania mentioned Hisoka as an exception, where it's like, yeah, because he is pretty well liked, even though he's also he's Jesus Christ. Yeah, Hisoka's something else. Like the fucking the part where he very clearly gets an erection, and in the anime they're represented with like Killua and Gon's eyes going up, and in the manga you see it's the placement of the word bubble. It's like, dude, Jesus Christ.
So negative where they might be with Mineta. And of course, there's the lack of cultural connection, as, from my experience, American children are given mediocre sex education and forced to figure it out for themselves, often in disregard.
I need to find it. There was a study apparently about how increased knowledge about sex also, there's a direct correlation with avoid, because if you know more about it, you're less likely to become a victim of, right, like, because ignorance is used as a weapon against younger people as a to exploit them. But if they know more about it, they're less likely to be assaulted, basically. Yeah, because basically, I don't know, just a random thing I remember hearing about, and I need to look it up.
Adults who are or were generally expected to be sexually active. Perverted behavior is not associated with the inner heart of sexual repression evoked through fantasy, but the sexual predator, something creepy, unnerving, or dangerous. And I believe this comparison is best elicited through a vast difference between the two.
I do remember one person, I think it was on Patreon, they said that like they were glad, on the one hand, like they just wish there was a version of this video that wasn't like, because I do have there's a script version, like it's in the description, but it's like in order to watch this video you do have to see like literally a lot of like sexual stuff, a lot of sexual like harassment and stuff, so it's like in order to get through the video you have to be able to put up with it. So it's like, I definitely feel, because if part of the video was to convince people that like there's purpose to this in that way, but it's like it kind of like walls off some of the people who in a sense need this video by including a lot of the stuff that people don't like about the subject matter, which is definitely a limit of, because that's generally my editing style, where it's very simple. It's like, what am I talking about? Okay, I'm gonna put something relevant to that on the screen, where there's other ways to edit videos and do videos. So I just remember having that, and it's like, well, the video is already out, I wasn't gonna remake it, and I do have the text version, but I just remember that, like, yeah, no, that was a fair thing to say. I don't even know if that was how I responded at the time, because I think I gave them a message, but I just remember thinking about it afterwards. It's like, yeah, that's fair, and I mean, really, I should have just edited the video myself, but I wanted videos to come out, and I had people who were willing to edit them, and so I'd pay other people so that I could do other stuff instead of just editing, because editing is my least favorite part. I think it shows. I'm not very good at it. I still am not, even after doing YouTube for fucking 7.5 years. Yeah.
Something equally mundane and shared, while also being connected almost ubiquitously to the pervert character. The bath. In Japan, the bath is something of a ritual.
Yes.
A long day ended with a soak to wash away fatigue.
This was
And
definitely one. I
washing
mean, I
hair
don't have
is
anything like
important.
major backing this. It's just from outside observations, but I do think I still like this part of the video.
The actual bath, dividing the cleansing of body and mind. The West does have this divide, but baths for the purposes of relaxation are an infrequent and often extravagant indulgence rather than a daily ritual. And more importantly, in Japan, they are also family or community affairs. Solo bathing is the norm in the privacy of one's home, but even so, parents and younger children bathing with each other is perfectly normal and expected. In the West, the adult primarily helps bathe the child until they are able to fend for themselves, after which it is a private affair barring time spent with the lover or monosex, more professional environments like military or sports and gym. But public bathhouses exist in Japan, even mixed baths, where one can go alone or with friends, family, and neighbor. Not just
Yeah, and that's because another criticism I got
space of
for this video was just like, I guess, relatively downplaying of issues with sexual assault in Japan, which I don't think is incorrect. I mean, I guess if I had to argue it, I would say something about how like part of the video is it's more about Western audiences, right? Like and how they're like responding to things. But one thing, like I do remember when I was looking up stuff for this video that just the multi-sex bathrooms or bathhouses, like mixed gender bathroom, that's the word I was looking for, are kind of falling out of fashion because of people being shitty. So I kind of don't mention that. Oh yeah, Titania, I think I talked about that earlier. Cause so yeah, she asked if do you think it or oh wait, no, oh, do you think I did enough to clarify that it's okay to dislike a trope even if it has merit? I don't know if I did that in this video. Because I know personally, I really don't care for it. Like sometimes I do. I'm not gonna say I don't laugh, right? Like it's like Sanji, like Traverser mentioned the part where Sanji, like he literally risks his life to see Shirahoshi and he turns to stone, right? Like that's kind of like that's pretty funny, right? And some of them it's like I do remember even talking about it in the show, like it's just some it's sometimes when it's so extreme, like it's kind of hard not to to for me to find it funny, even if generally it's like because a lot of it's same with it's not necessarily because it's like sexual related, it's because it's like it's tiring. I think like, and honestly another one I'm tired of is because it happens a lot with the food, with anime girls cooking food, and it's like, does it look like shit? Does it look like shit and taste good, or does it still taste like shit, or does it like and it's just it's really hard to do that in an interesting way because I feel like it's been done so much that it just kind of like, okay, yep, she can't cook, cool, right? But I wouldn't say I'm as tired, but it's less, I don't know, it's so minor, it's just a personal thing.
Relaxation in a
I'll watch more
social
of the video.
environment. Asking why someone in Japan would want to bathe in public is like asking, why would you go to a cafe for overpriced food and coffee when you can relax at home? People are social animals, and the act of being around others, even strangers, supplies them with that common need, whether there's any meaningful interaction or not. The bath in Western culture is a place of privacy or intimacy, with situations beyond being alone regulated to same-sex professional affairs that don't totally represent the shared experience of bathing, as most people aren't in one of those professions. But in Japan, it is a place of family and community in mutual ritual for relaxation where individual gender isn't necessarily a limitation to interaction in the right environment. And this experience is one that most people can typically access at any point in their lives, regardless of profession or age.
Yeah, I don't.
Once they're an adult.
What show is that? Like, 'cause some of the shows I recognize, but obviously by having other people edit the videos, I'm like, what the fuck are you showing? And yeah, I was.
With this picture in mind, let us take a bathing scenario and add in the fictional, childish, pervy peeping Tom. To Japan, it is an illegal act, but the fantasy is stimulated by a closeness in community. The connection between genders in the bath is a thinner line, be it the open walls allowing sound to travel, or outright removal of the line with mixed baths. And the slight possibility in turn fosters the sexual imagination. Compare this to
random little annoying thing that, because it's like, it's just me being annoying, but it's something I fixate on for some reason. It's probably because I saw someone talking about it a long time ago. So if you look at the moon in that image, something's a little wrong with the moon, because the moon shouldn't have stars behind it, because it's a solid sphere that you just see only some of the light off of. Uh, there's me being pedantic about the anime being unrealistic. Sorry, I just noticed it. I don't know why I pay attention, because I do like it when I see, like, when they have like a crescent moon, but you can actually see the dark part of the moon as well, and there are no stars, because it's like the moon is like half transparent. It's just like, I don't even think it's a pet peeve. It's just something I just happen to notice sometimes, and I'll like point, like, yeah, there I'm pointing out. It's like, yeah, the moon doesn't work like that, but it's like, because I think the other way to look at it is just what's it called? Just, art in general is meant to be expressive. So, maybe like in Soul Eater? Yeah, that's the one, right, with the moon, right? Like, it's drawn that way for a very specific reason, and it's always like that. It's not actually a sphere. But anyway, I just wanted to be annoying for a second.
Right removal of the line with mixed baths, and the slight possibility in turn fosters the sexual imagination. Compare this to the fantasy of the sexy teacher or nurse, one equally applicable to the West. Most of either have only a given chance of being attractive to the individual, but it is that closeness that breeds the fantasy. A fantasy that is known and accepted as fantasy, provided one has the perspective to know the normal. If a Westerner balks at such illegal actions like peeking in the bath, well, student-teacher relationships aren't even illegal outside of age of consent, but they are still socially frowned upon given the inherent uneven power dynamic, the teacher being an authority figure, requiring responsibility to be respected in that role. But if the West can indulge in its fantasies in the harmless environment of media, then Japan should have no problem doing the same. Where aversion comes
I think I
from,
had to fight with let's not pause on that screen.
perspective and how the same
Oh, okay, yeah. See, I don't know what movie this is, but I do remember, because so I had an issue with Nun. I love Nun. He's great, but I did remember fighting him for a bit over this video, because I felt like there were times where he was editing in a way that was either like, yeah, a bit too much. Like, clearly, considering this video is age restricted. I don't. Maybe he did. Did he not notice the? I didn't notice the Monster Musume nipples. But like, I just remember having to around this part of the video, I literally had to download the movie myself so I could edit part of it, because I didn't like some of the footage he was using, and there were other parts I had to ask about, because it's like, I remember there was in the first version of the video I was talking about the Japan as a space for community in the bath, and West as a space, it's a space of intimacy, and I remember him showing a clip of an anime where, like, I guess a lady character was bathing, and another lady came in while she was bathing and got into the same bath, and she was clearly uncomfortable about it. And I remember being bothered by that clip specifically, because it kind of went against what I was trying to say, right? Because, yeah, obviously, like, it's not like just because you have group baths that are a space community, obviously that's not going to be universal. You do have private baths, and in that case, I don't know the context of the show, but the other lady coming in and getting into the bath was clearly unwanted, because when she came in, she was like staring, and then she got down and she was like, and I just remember, like, I don't think that clip's in the video anymore, because I asked him to change it. But I remember it happened with this movie too, where I think he went a little far with the footage he showed, and I literally, like, again, I got to the point where it's just like, I'll just edit it myself, because clearly what I want is not getting across over text. So
fantasy becomes corrupted when viewed from the Western mindset, because as established, the commonly shared Western experience with bathing is one of privacy and intimacy, where they are
take a shot every time I say that.
connected as caretaker and needy youth or elder, or bonding as lovers. There is no thin line with an outside party, because said outside party is an intrusion into that private, intimate space. As such, when the bath is given a portrayal in negative context, it is one of vulnerability, where the defenseless individual is at risk when their private space is intruded upon.
Yeah,
This
wait.
major
See, why did I
divide is-
even like that? Shouldn't. Yeah, that was because, like, that does. I don't even think that applies to the context of the scene, because, like, the whole. I mean, okay, well, it was no. Hold on, I'm trying to remember that scene in Konosuba, because I'm pretty sure Cosmo thought he was under the succubus dream spell, so he thought it was a wet dream, basically. And Darkness didn't know, because obviously, like, Cosmo's just being, I don't know, because, like, and then banging things together is like, that's a whole, because I remember there was a part with Megumin. Yeah, I don't know, it's just been, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of, remember that scene, if it was like, but I feel like, yeah, that maybe even then, yeah, no, the video still had that problem, because I feel like here I'm talking about, you know, the intruder into the Western bathroom space being, you know, again, a break of what we, you know, expect from our bathrooms. And now, but he's using Eastern footage. So it's like, wait, hold on. Why did I just, I don't know. I let it through.
Further stressed when the bath is used for the negative in Japanese media. In
Oh,
situations
okay.
where the individual is in a state where relaxing can't soothe the mental state, and that daily ritual can't truly be completed. Unease of the outside in one culture, unease of the inside in another. Their reactions are practically inversed, and the stark contrast makes it incredibly obvious as to why childish Japanese fantasy would be so frowned upon, if not outright hated, by Western viewers.
Yep.
Attempts to connect what appears to be the mutual experience of bathing instead creates cultural dissonance.
That's definitely I think this is definitely the overall. It's still, even if I have some gripes with some of the visuals, maybe. Sorry, I laughed at Tanya's comment about people watching the video for the research because of the editing. There's some lewd stuff shown. I agree. It's definitely, I don't know. Is it? But I don't know. I was just thinking about how, like, I definitely think the bathroom part is probably like, see, it's like, it's one of those things where, like, I guess I could have done a video on it. I don't even think, no, I did not, because sometimes I've done videos where I want to talk about this one thing, but I feel like that one thing isn't like worth a video in itself. So I'll do a different kind of video to talk about the one thing. Like, I think my worst example with that was the old Yuri on Ice video, because what I actually wanted to talk about was Shihaifuru, but but I thought it would be better to like jump on the trend of like, here's a popular show, because Yuri on Ice was fucking huge. So I'll talk about the popular show. But really, at the end of the day, I spent less of the time talking about Yuri on Ice, and I did other things in that video. Like, less than half the video is actually on Yuri on Ice. You know, so just, but I feel like this isn't one of those cases, even though, like, I still think that section is pretty interesting, and overall it holds up. I think I did come to that just thinking about, like, you know, why are people bothered by this trope? And I realized, oh yeah, no, it's just like there's a huge cultural thing going on here, because like just the bathrooms themselves and the sort of what they accomplish, and like how we interact with those spaces is very different between the West and Japan. And when I came up into that, I was like, yeah, that's worth including in this video, because it really does explain why people really don't like that trope in America, where they are more accepting of it in Japan, where again it is legal, but like there's a closeness of fantasy there, you know. So yeah, I don't know. It's all right.
Satisfaction or disgust. That's not going to go away, nor should it necessarily, as each culture has a right to exist. But in this exchange, there are attitudes and assertions tossed around that require further unpacking. And as such, I want to go back to the article.
I guess
specifically,
I was just trying to figure out why there was Black Clover there.
The issue with the perverted male centers on how it spreads across the internet and makes some think such behavior is okay. I've run into male anime fans that think it's funny to look up women's dresses and other anime comedic behavior. Now, this is a rather
people who needs to get fucking hit.
Anecdotal account gets at is a concept called normalization, in which attitudes displayed, especially in media, reinforce or even promote such behavior. I am of the perception that normalization as a result of media does not exist.
One thing I definitely wish I could have done. Oh, this is the clip. I just remember. I don't, because Tanya mentioned research. I just remember this was in an old Digibro video, and apparently she was asked a bunch about people wanting the sauce, like what show this clip was from. I bet there's a lot of comments just in general of like, what show is this from? But what about that one? So it's like, oh no, oh boy, all right.
Fashion commonly assumed, and yet here we have a counterexample to my stance and a justification for the push against portraying such.
Because I don't know, I didn't edit this video.
As such, I think the question of media.
Well, that one I know. It's Girl Gone. I know it's from Prisma Ilya. I just mostly remembered it for use in another video.
So in effect, we have anime fans of unknown age, presumably young, mimicking what they see in fiction and attempting to recreate.
What am I looking at?
From running with your arms behind your back like Sonic or Naruto, pretending to do the Kamehameha or the Force, it's recognized and childish behavior.
See, I wish I'd looked up child development, because I feel like this has probably been talked about in papers on child development about imitation as a form of learning. I just kind of talk about it as if everybody knows that, and maybe that's true. I guess I do have some examples and my own personal anecdote because I think a lot of us were young, so we probably there's some level of just that imitation. I know I've like my maybe done forced motions or Kamehameha motions. I'm not gonna say whether or not I still do them as an adult. Yes, I did that on purpose. I adjusted my glasses like Captain Kuro because I don't know. I was really, really into Kuro when I got into One Piece, and I still rarely, rarely adjust my glasses that way. um, oh no, yeah, Graham. I understand where you're coming coming from about like um, it's cultural, but like because it is tough for me because it's like because on one hand there's cultural imperialism where you're like putting your values over another cultures, which is I think absolutely happens in anime discourse, and right where um when at the same time a lot of like what we like from anime is its foreignness is what's different about it compared to the media that we do um but then there, also obviously it's like we don't want that to excuse so I mean my stance on it is like this is fiction, this isn't real, right? So at the end of the day I think we should explore anything in fiction. I think that should be fine, but obviously yeah, we want the audience to be educated on these matters, on important matters, right? And so I think one example I heard of was I forget I forget what country it was, but I just remember it was one that doesn't have as much like gender equality. Like even Japan and America also have to deal with a lot of sexism, and like equal rights for women was seen as a foreign idea, right? So then it's like yeah, that's an example where like oh, it's just a cultural thing that they hate women. That's a little like okay yeah, that see in that case it's clearly not a defense, right? And my stance on that is like one is like I personally just believe human rights, and also just like I guess how I frame it a lot of times it's like do unto others as you do unto yourself, with like if you kill people, well that's fine, but you shouldn't complain when someone tries to kill you, right? Like you put your ideology on the world, and then but like it has to be go both ways. You can't just decide I can kill other people but no one can kill me, right? Like that's bad. So ideally like but like there's all see it's like so with a culture like that is treats women as second class citizens, then like it's like okay, so do we go and like do we engage like in warfare, like social or otherwise, to force them to change that? And like well that's where it becomes cultural imperialism, but also it's a thing that so ideally we but then it's a complex issue and I don't really know the answer, and maybe people in chat are like um sorry, I was it's like Craftsdorf does the Nika dance before and after he starts streaming. How did you know? Sorry, I was just like hearing because it's like it's a complex issue because obviously I don't want in general like it's not like I remember like sometimes I'll like closing out of work and leaving the store, like I'll see a woman on the street and like walking in the dark alone, and there's a part of me that's like she's probably fucking terrified right now, right? Like there's a fear in her. Like I don't want people to have to deal with horrible shit, right? Because I think I saw a comedian joking about that, making jokes about the same thing, where it's like you could have a baby on, you could tell me that your baby's on fire, and I'm just gonna fucking keep going, like because so like there's so many there's so much shit people have to deal with, and especially in other cultures, like there's a way that they maybe accept things that I would think are bad, but it's also like ideally we'd want those cultures to come to their a sort of a better understanding themselves, because like it's just I don't know, it's just such it feels I don't know, I just don't know how to approach it basically because again I don't want it to be like I don't want it's just another culture, it's their thing to be a shield against like really horrible things because like but also there is like well I do want to respect other cultures in other ways, so it's like I don't know. Yeah, I have no, because there's some talk about like female characters. I definitely because it's like I don't know. It's yeah, God. It's there's just so much. I don't know because I've been thinking about just stuff with like gender in general, like I've brought up sometimes, and it's just like just thinking about like all the shit fucking women have to go through that I don't, and not that I have no issues as a guy, like because I there's toxic masculinity and I've recognized that in my upbringing and other aspects, but like I don't know, I just want more understanding between people, and and that that's I guess that's mostly what I want, and it's just really hard to like just because I don't want to say like because I think that women should be treated as people. To some people that's a very radical thought, and I don't know. Wait, and I know my thing on the female characters is like because on one hand it's like certainly we want to be critical about certain like especially I think we want diversity, right? We want different things. Like I remember in the Lindsay Ellis video about the film's history on like trans characters, she brought up one character in a comedy show where they were trans, but it wasn't a part of the character, and has like because it's such a big deal with a lot of trans characters. The fact that this one, it's not a big deal is refreshing. Right? So it's like, but also, again, diversity. We just because or I guess like how do I put this? I'm trying not to put my foot in my mouth, but like it's like I guess okay, like let's say there's an overall narrative, right? Like like when female characters, in shonen, like one of them they get is like, oh, a lot of them heal or whatever, like Sakura is a medic. At the end of the day, I don't think it's really true, but like if say it's more just like the idea of like there is a recurring narrative that's not that like maybe problematic or not good in some way, like female character fridging is the one I understand from comics where like you have a female character who's not so much a character, but their purpose as a plot device is to die for emotional value, which maybe and then but that extends to people talking about like with Jujutsu Kaisen, you have a female character who died recently, and people weren't happy about it. And I think about the male character who died in this season, who people really really like. And from my perspective, like both of these characters died, another character was affected by it, and both of these character deaths completed the character, right? Which is kind of how I think Orobuchi Gens said that in an interview regarding character death, where that's how he kind of feels about it, where it's not, no, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but he said it's more that he said something about how like for him the character death isn't the important part, it's the way they lived basically. And maybe there's something about like because I've seen people criticize like the machismo of the macho. There's a word that it's a longer version of that word that I probably butchered. And and I've heard that like lobbed against like Whiplash or Ashita no Joe, right? Of that kind of like masculine, like that to self-destructive way being like looked down upon, and maybe maybe that's where that reading comes from when it comes to death. But there's just so many. I don't know, there's so many like layers to it, and I want to understand it better because I do think so many people are really unfair when they talk about female characters because they're trying to put them on such like they need to be so perfect and exactly what they want to be a good female character, when obviously male characters can just be whatever they can be, right? Like Lucy from Fairy Tail isn't allowed to be weak and struggle with weakness, but Usopp is, right? Like people love Usopp. People don't like Lucy, right? Like there's and that goes back to like variety and diversity. It's like we want to have a breadth of characters. So if you have a lot of characters fitting one certain mold, that's not good. I don't know. I guess so. My thing I think with female characters specifically is I feel like people maybe their vision is a bit too narrow, because I think if we look on the broad scope of media, I think we do have a lot of diversity with female characters, right? Because a lot of when they say like specifically in shonen's not the only like category of manga, right? Like one thing I've been thinking about is just like I want to not only read but also push more people to read shoujo and magical girls, right? Because I as a guy, there's levels of the female experience that I'll never understand, but by engaging with media meant for girls, that's a way I can maybe understand or at least get a possible window into some of these aspects. You know, and but people just like, you know, they only talk about the popular stuff, and that's only going to be marketed geared to a certain like demographic. Oh, see, Eaglin, I was more coming from the opposite because I feel like characters who like Sakura is criticized for not being as strong as Naruto and Sasuke, right? Like, so it's not even that like, oh, it's like because like my example came up more from the opposite one because he said like, oh, maybe it's okay for female characters to be weak and guys characters um but for male characters, it feels like being weak is bad and you should be stronger. But I don't know. I felt like because I feel like no one's criticized Usopp for weakness being a part of his story, but characters like Sakura and Lucy, who aren't the strongest and the baddest, kind of get shit on, right? No, yeah, I'm so because Traverser mentions like people movies are dead because Marvel movies and the multiverses are in, and it's like I don't know, because like I'm just so tired because it's like I like the Marvel stuff, honestly. Okay, I say that watching What If, which I don't care for. But overall, and even then, just Phase 5 in general has been like, there's been 2 hits, and everything else has just been kind of mid so far. You know, but I still overall like the Marvel stuff. But I'm so tired of seeing people just like bringing it up, just shit on it, basically. And it's not even that their observation is incorrect, but yeah, there's so many more movies out there. Please watch them. Please let Marvel die. I say that as a fan, you know, because I'm kind of like at the point with it where it's like I like a lot of what's already come out. There's the shit with fucking Jonathan Majors that just happened. It's very possible I'm gonna be sitting on this ship. It's probably going down. Honestly, like financially, it's not been doing well, even though it's been this big ambitious thing. I'm imagining it's at the point where it's just gonna keep going until it just peters out and dies, right? Um, so like and honestly I'm fine with that because maybe I'll still get some really good stuff coming, you know, because I still like the characters, I still like the world, I'm still invested in it. But I'm not out there in the trenches fucking defending every decision that they make, even if it's something that I don't have a problem with or I think is good. I never made a video on the MCU, actually, come to think of it. I did think about that, huh? I could, but it's like I just never not something I felt with. But like, if you don't care, stop talking about it. Stop promoting it. Stop going to watch the movies, please. Like, because that's a win-win. One, if less people do that, that means they're gonna be less inclined to make them. And two, if less people do that, I'm gonna hear less stupid shit about them, right? So it helps the fans who like the thing, and it helps the people who don't like the thing. Because, like, come on. Uh, um, like it's just I'm so tired. I'm just so tired of it. Just because I'll just be like there was that one article I was linked to about sort of like sexuality in media and how like there's no sex scenes anymore because like everything's, you know, people have it needs to have a meaning, it needs to have a purpose, when it having it could just be meaning or purpose in itself. And you know, sort of like serialization of Hollywood and the fact that it has to, you know, it was an interesting article. But like I remember they just bring up Marvel, like, oh, Thor becomes fat in Endgame because like he's less sexual, and the MCU in general is a symptom of this like thing. And I'm also like, you know, there's the sex scene in Eternals that you didn't feel like mentioning, but the director had a silly comment about it. You know, not that it dismisses the overall point of the article, but I'm just like, I would prefer the article if it didn't just just randomly shit on something that I happen to like, you know, just but yeah, hate grift, that's fair. But anyway, I just like, I guess I was just gonna say try and finish the female characters thing. I want to talk about it at some point in a video, because again, like Jujutsu Kaisen's got me thinking about it. I've also talked about it on a podcast I was guesting on. I talked about fucking Yoko from Ashina Joe, like, because that's another thing about the whole issue is there's instances where like, because the way some girls engage with media is actually like quite different from the way the guys engage with it. Like I believe with Gundam, Tomino said something about the female fans of Gundam because he felt like the boys were only interested in the toys. The girls actually gave a shit about the characters. You know, and like, and that in a way like helped the Gundam franchise survive. And even from Zeta Gundam, like there's I saw a pinup from a poster with Camille, the main character Camille, Zeta Gundam looking like sexual in a way that might appeal to women, right? So it's like, so right from the get go, Gundam's like appealing to both guy and girl fans, and so there's just also just a sense of like, because the overarching, we live in a patriarchy, and the overarching media landscape also reflects that. Even you have stuff like so like obviously you have like one, like let's look at One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, right? All of them are popular with both guys and girls, but I think, you know, but like Bleach in particular is more popular with women. It has character designs that I feel like might be a bit clamp derived, in a sense of just like having longer proportions, which women clamp, fucking some of the most important manga author, you know, female manga authors especially, right? And then just like the way certain series like Gintama or Haikyuu have female fans who ship the characters and stuff. So you have an overarching system that's a series aimed at boys, but then you have girls engaging with them in a way that's very different from the boys, and also looked down on. Fujoshi literally means like like it's a negative term. It reads it literally as a negative term. Like there's self-deprecation there, and so it's just like there's just so many interesting like angles to come at the issue from, and like that's one of the reasons I like Yoko for Ashino Joe, because she doesn't like boxing, but she gets involved with these boxers because she loves Rikishi and Joe, because she happens to be in love with individual people who really care about this thing. She becomes a woman in a male-dominated space who is discriminated against just casually a lot of time for being a woman, and like it's just, I don't know, it just feels really emblematic of how like a girl has to exist in a space dominated by men in a lot of ways. And Japan is actually healthier and maybe not health, I don't know, it does have female dominated spaces. Like doujinshi markets used to be were like that. The whole reason we have them is because of women, right? And just like you know, and then you have shoujo manga. So there's elements of division there, but it's also like it's there's so many layers to it. And I'm like, how there's a video. There's just been babies just on screen for like, how long have I been talking about this? Um, yeah, Titania, I don't know what you're talking about with the Oda's comments on the girls writing letters. I'm not sure what that refers to. I do know that Sanji is popular with women. Um, so, you know, you never know. But yeah, I'm gonna watch more of this movie. I'm gonna move more of this movie, more of this video.
Play, but that is
Oh, so sorry, I just laughed because what happened is um the Arrow manga sensei's was in a window, so for some reason I thought I'd accidentally like made it maximized instead of full screen. So I double clicked it to make it but it just made it maximized instead of full, because it was already full screen. I just had a dumb moment there.
to see where trying to emulate it will prove unsuccessful in direct creation. And the idea of emulating sexual assault is obviously a bit more than eyebrow raising in itself due to the relative closeness to reality. Imitation is an inherent part of learning. You can see this fed into through children's toys that let children imitate cleaning, shopping, childcare, etc. However, the key thing to note in this relationship is that while imitation is an inherent part to learning, failing and overcoming that failure,
I just thought it was weird to see her in Lion April.
is part of the learning process as well. And this relationship touches on certain attitudes that have rightfully been criticized, such as the phrase, boys will be boys. The phrase is sometimes used to dismiss the behavior of a child doing something wrong. And it's important to discuss the divide exactly because of how the phrase can be so easily used to dismiss damaging behavior. Imitation through the act of learning in itself can be called children being children. It's inherent, but something to be grown out of. Where the phrase becomes an issue is when it's not being used to bolster learning, by letting dangerous behaviors be permitted when the proper response should be guidance or even punishment to dissuade such actions. The viewing and replication of behavior from media is a consequence of the inherent...
Oh, over Senkan. I was like, what are these hands doing? And it's like, oh. Sorry, I just had my eyes open because apparently the misogynist Jujutsu Kaisen, who I don't remember which character that is specifically, off the top of my head, ranking higher than any female characters, like Jesus Christ. But
blame for that. Children can take any kind of influence from anything, and if anything is to blame,
Yeah, I
then
really
maybe
wish I had
it's
some
the
backing
blame.
here about
This made it
actual
clear
child
something is not
development
a great
to back up my
educator cannot
points.
be reactive to the
Uh,
influence one might take from it, which may not be intended. It cannot reprimand or challenge what one has learned.
yes.
That is the role of the one the child is most likely to take influence
And that I
from.
really think is important because I think the way, I mean, even, it's not even just like, because no, like the ways that like people just let media be a babysitter. Like I remember seeing like someone had a Christmas list for their kids, and it's all just a bunch of shit they found about like makeup and stuff that they don't need as a kid that they found out through videos. And it's like they're like, why don't they just want dolls or something? And it's like, well, you're raising them. Why do they not want dolls? Like I remember I was working at Target, and I was talking to a delivery driver because we Target ships out like orders for customers and stuff. And he was like, all my kids, they just want stuff. And, and I didn't talk to him about it because it's like, he's just a guy I'm going to talk to a couple times, maybe once a week, if that. I'm just like, you're raising your kids. Like, if you want them to be less materialistic, well, reflect on your own materialism. Reflect on how, like, are you giving them experiences that aren't just related to the stuff you buy them? Because my dad took me camping and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I still ended up being pretty materialistic because I like stuff. I liked video games. I like toys. And it took me, I remember once I was being snotty because I got a gift. It was a One Piece party game, but it was like 4Kids dubbed, and I was already like aware of the issues with the 4Kids dub and watching it online and reading it online and that stuff. So I remember like calling out my mom and saying that it's a bad game or whatever, and my dad literally like fucking grabbed me and took me and basically told me to stop being a piece of shit, basically. And I remember that really affected how, because I'm just not that materialistic anymore because I just because like it was fucking Christmas. My mom loved Christmas. And I was just like, this gift is bad, and making her feel bad about it. Like I was being a fucking piece of shit. And my dad took me aside and was like, you need to stop being a fucking piece of shit. And he had every right to do so, right? Like children learn from their parents. If we just put them in front of a TV or an iPad and YouTube, we don't know what they're going to pick up, right? Unless you, as a parent, talk to them and engage with them. It's like, that feels so basic to me. But I mean, at the same time, like I'm not a parent. Like that, the idea seems terrifying to me, but like, it's very difficult, right? But like, so here I am, like, yeah, media can't reward or punish you based on your actions. It's just a like, you kind of have to have a maturity to engage with it. And I guess so. Because like, yeah, we do learn things from media. We do, I've learned a lot about Japan that is obviously through a lens and is not real. And like, I have to recognize like which parts aren't reality. Like, and there are ways that I could be wrong. Like, I know that, but I was just thinking about some of the Cineclinic videos recently about he did on the rooftops, where it's like you can't actually really get on the rooftops unless you can, and it's a whole thing. Right? So if I watched a bunch of anime, I was like, oh, in Japan you can just go up on the rooftop and have a cool place to hang out in silence and quiet. And it's like, that's not real. It's not real anymore. It's complicated. Yeah, Solid John, it was the Pirates Carnival. God, I was being such a shit about that game. Still haven't played it because it ended up getting returned, but it's like I don't, yeah, I just remember just cringe, me being cringe.
Parents, guardians, teachers, or other authority figures they're told to listen to. Even if bad behavior is punished in the media itself, the article gives an account where the author explicitly stated those imitating it were missing the point of the media they consumed. People can fail to grasp or understand how the media portrays its subject matter. And if that happens, the media certainly can't do anything about it. Children naturally imitate, but this shouldn't be responded to by the removal of all media.
Okay, that was a fun. I don't know if that was on. I'm sorry, just the edit of like Suzuki just picking up like the little thing, and then it cuts to a TV screen and that gets bashed in. Like obviously the thing she was holding was very different, but there was just like, oh, she's lifting it. What's she gonna do with it? Then it cuts, and I'm like, okay, and it just gets. So it's just like, I don't know, something about that edit. Thought it was funny.
Rather than push for the removal of perspectives that can offer both insight and learning opportunities, it must be recognized that the parent, guardian, or other authority
I don't know what she was
will
shown
take
there. I
precedence.
Neuron
through
activation.
enforcing proper behaviors, they will be a better teacher than media ever could be. It is not the responsibility of the media to raise the child. Media offers new perspectives, new opportunities for learning. Yet rather than take those opportunities, you have instances of parents seeing a chance to teach and educate as a chore, demanding producer change, cancel, or otherwise censor the media, pushing them to give new perspective for their child, and ultimately leaving said child without that perspective.
I wonder how much, because my parents were also really good about paying attention to what me and my brother watched, I think. So maybe that's part of the effect. I love my parents. Like, I have issues with them. Like, I opened the stream talking about how my dad was just saying bigoted shit when I talked to him the other day on Christmas Eve, and I was like, I just kind of just shut. I didn't laugh at his jokes because I didn't like them, but I didn't respond to them either. But like, obviously, like, because they were so thoughtful with me. I feel really lucky to have them. Humble bragging, regular bragging. I don't know. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about them because like I just remember they like they wanted us to be sure like that we could approach the media in a mature way or at least like an aware way. Because I remember like I think there were two instances where we actually just like we were watching something and they were so it was All That, which was the comedy show on Nickelodeon. There was one part where there was like a character in a bathroom just smashing it up, and I remember and the other one was Mortal Kombat, which obviously it's based on a video game, so but a very violent video game. And I remember it just because like what happened was both times me and my brother were watching it and we changed the channel, and then my mom or dad came in and were basically to see that they did because they were watching it too, to see, but in a different room, to see if it was appropriate for us. So they were like kind of like looking over our shoulder without looking over our shoulder. And both times they came in and were like, or I think with the All That one, we didn't change it, but they were like, this is stupid. You shouldn't be watching this. With the Mortal Kombat one, I kind of knew and I changed the channel. So I don't know, I just remember like, I was really like, my mom fucking got into Pokemon because it's a video game. We hadn't played that many of them or really got into them at the point. It's one that has a lot of reading. So she got into it. She played it to help us understand it, and she just fucking like got into it herself. She played up until 6th generation, which I think is like so. I don't know. I'm really blessed to have parents who did pay attention to the media we consumed, who did talk with us about it. And I remember like when they stopped doing that because they knew that we were mature enough to recognize the fiction as fiction, and like just let us engage with whatever we wanted, or so I don't know, but not everyone's that lucky, and maybe I was a little bit harsh in that way because parenting is really difficult, but it's also really important, and so I maybe that's my privilege speaking because I had two parents who did pay a lot of attention and have a lot of care in their parenting, where lots of people only have one parent or have parents who didn't have that level of care. And maybe that's also my One Piece showing, because One Piece also has that kind of like nature, like the nurture and like the values we get from our parents are really important. And I don't know. Because yeah, obviously I hope that I wish that everyone could have parents even close to mine, but obviously like the reality is just not that perfect. And I knew some people who really struggled. Like I had a friend who I talked to him, not, was it this year? Or was it, no, I think it was this year. He, for the first time in a long time. And I was just shocked at how much he got out of coming to our house and talking, like having, because he had like foster parents and stuff, and just I don't know, in some ways like our family like rubbed off a lot on him, and I was just really like amazed, and just another, again, recognizing like how lucky I am. So anyway, I didn't watch this video. Still got
innocence can become ignorant.
9
This
minutes.
is primarily speaking from a Western lens, naturally, but that recognition is important when discussing how Western audiences react to Japanese media, as that media in itself cannot be reactive. It cannot teach and inform its audience with the cultural context needed to explain its perspective and cultural differences without deliberately being designed to do so. And it would be ludicrous to expect media design for native audiences
Sorry, just like Nisakoi, hot swimsuit, cuts to the police from Death Note looking respectfully. Just very quietly. Just sorry. This juxtaposition is really like something I thought that was funny.
That's abuses. But in exporting this media, Western viewers come into contact with a new perspective.
Yes.
One that their family and culture may not be prepared to deal with, compounded with the fact that these medias are niche affairs, the specific communities that discuss them being distanced from their overall culture. To a degree, this was, and still can be, the case with pornography. Without many discussions or experiences with actual sex, porn becomes the primary perspective, one of idealized lack of realism, and without the backing
Do
to
I
question
bring
that,
up an
it leads
article?
to
Because I've heard of that idea of people having unrealistic expectations for sex because of porn, but I don't know how. Because that's I don't know. That's the kind of thing that's like I just because sometimes you get the study shows up, but it's like this study was paid for by someone with a very clear narrative, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have my list of sources for this video on hand. Yeah, so yeah, Traverser mentions the kids going around their parents' back to watch things because yeah, you can't really control all aspects of their lives, like because if they go to school and they have a friend with a phone they have free access to anything, they can theoretically watch anything, and you can't really help that, right? Like I remember fucking in high school. When the internet was kind of a thing, I had a friend who would literally show in high school fucked up porn because he was a 4chan guy. I was a 4chan guy too. But I wasn't super into that. He showed and he like kind of regretted it later. Because he's still my best friend, but he was just like, God, I was such a piece of shit because he'd show people fucked up things in when they were minors. Obviously high schoolers, a little closer to adulthood, but still, and just imagining like, God, I do not envy any parent raising kids today in the internet age because Titania asked if I would let your kids watch Skippity. I think isn't it Skippity Toilet? I don't actually know what it is. I saw like a thumbnail and is it a Gmod character in a toilet? I don't actually know what it is. The answer is maybe, because again, ideally in a perfect scenario, I would want to watch it on my own terms and to be able to, if there's anything that I would take issue with, I would be able to discuss it with them. Right? Because that's what I'm arguing here, where it's like, because my parents were quick to say like, oh, this is bad, this isn't being like, I remember we watched a play, Rumpelstiltskin. That's the one. And in one of my elementary school classes, and I remember I was sitting next to the teacher, and the fucking act at the end of the movie when I barely remember the plot of that movie, but he lost and he was tantruming on stage, and my teacher was like, "That's bad behavior. Don't do that." And so I just remember people in my life being very quick to point that out, to not imitate fiction that we see, like because that was a play, so you actually had a real ass actual adult I was physically seeing there, not on a screen or anything, but the teacher's just like, don't do that, please. And it's like, I was just like, I know. So, wait, it's a Gundam shitpost? Okay. Am I reading that right?
for the confusion and need to understand when placed against actual reality. New or countercultural media has traditionally been seen as an object of concern, made worse by the fact that it reaches more mainstream eyes through...
See, I don't know who that character is, but I saw the blue flame around their head, and I was like, Blue Endeavor.
Media was asking after the infamous shooting. It wasn't decades worth of action movies or violent superhero comics that dominated the discussion. The culture was well versed in how to evoke fantasy that was never meant to be emulated. But it was relatively unprepared for the new media. Games, metal, rap, the media became the problem, not the culture surrounding it. New media meeting with a culture not prepared to understand or accept this media does not lead to acceptance or willingness to understand, but fear and desire to censor and silence this vehicle for new conversation and comprehension. The video game conversation is one that America has had, and Japan has similarly been having its conversation regarding anime and manga as a result of the horrific serial killer Miyazaki Tsutomu, a collector of media and VHS
Hopefully I linked
tapes
that's a
dating
pause and
manga
select video, I'm pretty sure.
children. America had its tragedies and was able to retain its media.
I think I do remember someone pointing out something about how like this, because the thing with the video game violence is that studies and research showed, basically I think someone was pointing it out, like that American culture as a whole has a lot of violence in its media, which just kind of, I don't know, I felt like that added to my point about how one, video games aren't really exceptional, even though because the fear was like, oh, you're actually acting out the violence, but like action movies and stuff glorify violence plenty. Like, it's American culture. There's lots of glorification of violence, right? So it doesn't really like, people are already exposed to that. People already knew that it was video games themselves that they were kind of like hadn't reconciled with yet. So
Japan had its tragedies and similarly kept its media.
do those count as okay? Sorry, I was just thinking about the censorship for a second, because they were drawn, but all of it's drawn.
But sexuality is a core aspect to human nature, and Japanese media offered a perspective that, to the unprepared American, might be confusing and frightening. And rather than understanding, the initial desire is that it shouldn't present the matter at all. It's normalizing things that are bad, therefore it should not exist. But as explored, normalization is
Good use of the horror.
It's the fault of how it's
Oh, Golden
perceived and
Boys.
acted
I hadn't
on
watched that at that
as a
point.
symptom of the culture enacting it. And in this case, not necessarily even the one that made it. This one anecdotal account is not the only instance of the West taking things from Japanese culture without full context of that culture, and in turn corrupting it. Cosplay is a more formal affair in Japan,
Okay,
for instance.
okay.
It's not
Sorry,
cosplay.
I just got a flashback to the fucking. I'm not gonna watch it today, but the. No, wait, do I? No, it was the. Hold on. Oh no, maybe no, it's the Love Lab video. That's what I was thinking of. Never mind.
For people to walk
Yeah.
around town in full costume outside of actual conventions.
Because I have a
Photo
problem with
taking
that
is restricted to
video.
certain designated areas.
Oh,
In the
no,
West,
that's right.
When cosplay is done, it's more as a permanent fixture. Photos can be taken anywhere at a convention, just ask, and costumes are often worn by cosplayers as they go about their convention business. But in taking the approximation of cosplay away from the culture that
Yep,
practices it without
I think
full
this
form
was
of
the
that
instance of me
practice,
downplaying
in Japan,
things.
it's something more distant. Elsewhere, congoers had to be reminded not to sexually assault cosplayers in provocative outfits. Closer proximity and lack of familiarity with the concept and practice led to deviants indulging in their desires, in turn demanding conventions.
Yeah, I think so. The problem I think would need to be corrected with this, because like here I'm like, yeah, they took cosplay out of the Japanese context and needed to be reminded not to sexually assault or harass cosplayers, but like someone pointed out rightfully so that like there's issues with like putting cameras in their shoes on Japan, and like also like the way that cosplay is done at conventions is also like you're less likely to be in close contact with them. So it's like, I mean, I guess maybe my point was that like this is a newer thing in America, so they had to bring protections in more recently. But I didn't look at the history of it in Japan either, because they also had to deal with issues and evolve, because of people being fucking pieces of shit, basically. And they still have people being pieces of shit. So yeah, maybe I wasn't that clear about that.
Address the issue. For another example, there's maid cafes, where in Japan they operate as spaces of roleplay between maid and guest, spaces where there's no sexual intimacy or intrusion of the real, but instead offerings of healing and esteem offered without judgment. However, the Joyo Maid Cafe event in Columbus, Ohio was nothing of the sort, employing middle school-aged and older girls in a context where neither party was prepared to engage in the proper fantasy space for such an establishment.
I assume I had linked to that in the description.
Of interacting with their own culture and media,
because Patrick Galbraith had a really good write-up, Made in Japan, spelled MAID, about maid cafes that I remember finding really interesting, but I hope it was included in this video.
Out of misunderstanding. And given that media can still be new and frightening, the response is not to educate, but to censor. And this is the real threat of
Classic 4Kids. Classic 4Kids edit. Oh, I'm looking at it for the first time in a long time, and I'm just like, it's the way that it's like lacking it's something about the colors. It's just like there's no clear lines in between some of them, so it's just it looks so weird. The fucking gun hammer. Funny.
Normalization. Media does not magically change attitudes and twist people into believing something radical at the drop of a hat. It offers new perspectives that are first played against reality, and it is the space of the real that must be primarily addressed when discussing the relationship between the real and the unreal. If the unreal fills the space of knowledge, it's because there's no real perspective to counterbalance that. By blaming media and acting as a proponent for censorship, said perspective becomes target for removal, which in turn removes a voice from the conversation. One piece of media cannot form a trend.
One Piece?
Pervasive, it's likely to be a symptom of the culture.
My brain
not
rot is
art,
too deep.
which requires an understanding of that culture. Pop Culture Detective had a great video regarding the presentation of male-on-male sexual assault, especially in how Western films evoke the desire to see criminals punished, even if it's through an act that in most other contexts is deemed utterly reprehensible. This trend downplaying actual suffering of actual victims. Art reflects the culture it's from, and if one takes negative behavior from a perspective offered by art, it is not the fault of the art, but because family or culture around them is ill-equipped to handle that perspective, or is even accepting of it out of having not heard another point of view. Normalization is a deflective attitude.
Jesus
blaming it on
Christ,
the
this video's a
culture
lot.
and those in it,
At some
pieces of art,
points.
or even artists, or
Jesus.
somehow having a power that it does not have, as study after study shows a meaningful lack of connection in media affecting reality. And when this bludgeon of normalization is used against art of other cultures, it becomes a weapon for cultural imperialism. Japan's anime and manga space is currently much more internally driven, so the tastes of outside consumers does not have the power to affect it. But in the broader sense, Japan is...
That's definitely changing now, because you have websites like Pixiv changing some of their policies because of foreign, you have productions, more so that, like, because they'd have them before, like Big O was one, and that I swear there was another one I just heard about. Ultimate Muscle or Kinikon Nisei. Like they literally primarily got second seasons because of their popularity in America. So that was the case back then, 10, 20, no, more like 15, 20 years ago. But nowadays with the global markets, you have, I feel like, properties that it's a potential question. When it comes to a property getting produced, is like, how might it do in foreign markets? So it's times have changed in just the last few years. So interesting to think about.
And despite the growing popularity of its media, in the overall sphere of the planet, it is much smaller than America, let alone the rest of Western culture. The effect of its media is the weaker force, and yet claims of the effects of normalization on ignorant Western audiences give it a perceived threat of power. It is a corrupting influence. Therefore, it is not the receiving culture that needs to understand those differences and gain new perspective, but the giving culture that should conform to the ideals and values of the dominant culture so as to not tempt said dominant culture with what it deems as deviant, even if it's as simple, childish, and innocent as a character getting aroused at the thought of seeing a naked and attractive member of the sex they happen to be allured to. That which is unique to the enjoyment and appeal of the media in question should be removed because it's different, even though the culture that formed it doesn't have the issues that the media supposedly spreads and reaffirms. This cultural imperialism is still happening. The UN is attempting to censor Japan's pornographic art despite underdress, harassment, or even sexual slavery on its part, which artist Tukasawa brutally lampoons.
Oh God, what?
Creating an unflattering image. But considering Japan's
This video is way
crime
too
rate,
much.
it's one closer to reality than it ever should.
And there's no disclaimer.
Yes, crime happens. But in a battle regarding
There's no disclaimer for any of this.
the weapon is not silence, but voices and
God.
perspectives. Japan, West Germany, Sweden, and Denmark have all had reduced
I mean, it is age restricted, but still.
Sexual media, especially those crimes committed by juveniles, those who most need multiple perspectives. Yes, there are other methods of crime prevention, but education only has benefits.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like, I think overall the points of the video I still largely agree with, but it's the presentation that I think I'm really starting to take an issue with now. Just especially the fact that all I would have needed was a disclaimer. But even watching it now, maybe it's because it's a public environment, and just also remembering that, oh, this video represents my channel in some way. Like maybe that's making it a little more awkward for me of just like having fucking ass and titty just shoved in my face while people are watching my face. Something a little awkward about that, maybe. Oh, Nun's here. Thank you for editing this video. No, it's not. It's not just it's not your fault, because again, I didn't put the disclaimer on it. I didn't ask for a disclaimer, and this video has been up for several years without a disclaimer, which is really all it needed. But it is what it is.
In the individual to choose. The activism that aims to solve actual problems is well-intentioned, but sadly misdirected at a helpless target. Art cannot defend itself. It is good at speaking, but not so much with listening, responding, or reacting, and the author has no obligation to address the concerns of every reader. The only ones who can step up to respond are other readers, who then risk similarly being seen as problematic and dismissed for offering alternate perspectives. and attempting to broaden the conversation and enhance discussion by challenging perceptions to reduce overall ignorance. As long as the knee-jerk response to new perspectives is fear and demands for silencing, that's not going to stop, but it sure doesn't mean no one should speak up. This video was edited by Nunmanji. Be
Hey!
sure to check out his video on overanalyzing. Editing was brought to you
I didn't show any visuals, so it's just a black screen. Okay. All right. Yeah, that about does it for that video. Yeah, so not as bad as I was fearing, I think, but definitely I could have done that better. Even just for having a disclaimer, I think. And also, yeah, it's age restricted, which I think I don't know how much of that is inevitable because I don't know how harsh YouTube is on. I know there's obviously they're not gonna have porn on that platform no matter what. I don't know about every Tuesday. I want to try every week. Last week it was actually Monday, I'm pretty sure. But I didn't want to do it Monday because Monday was Christmas, even if I wasn't doing anything. So I am going to try and do it at least once a week. When I play Danganronpa next year, I might try to do it twice a week. But it also kind of depends. And obviously with the Weeb Club, there's already a stream I'm in weekly, ideally. Though sometimes we just won't do it. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to watch more videos next time because I did knock out 3 of them. So that leaves the Love Lab one, the Danganronpa, the V3, the Closing the Case trilogy of Danganronpa videos, and then the Monster Hunter video. So yeah, I don't know which one. So we'll probably end up doing, I don't know what we'll do next or when I'll do it. No, you're thinking of it's a Bleach reread, Traverse for me and Hot Boy. Yeah, and that's another thing I've been waiting on till next year just because I don't want to start Bleach. I don't know, weird autism where I just don't want to start new things unless I can finish it this year because there's only a week left. But yeah, we'll be rereading Bleach next year. Gonna talk to him about it shortly. And then, yeah, so that about does it. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging out, for watching along, for going through that visual Jesus Christ of a video that was just like it was too much. I definitely should have more of a disclaimer there, but it's obviously too late now. Been up for years, but I can still leave a comment or something. And yeah, I know. So yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for hanging out.